What is up, everybody? All right. Where is my window capture? Properties. There we go. Welcome, everybody. We're going to be doing analysis stream properties. Welcome, you face the Kraken. You face Arsenal fan Rich. Now I have Mr. Coffee, what's up? Hello. All right. We are right back with you. Now, welcome, Uber driver, Mr. Coffee. Fancy image, Sladgie, Mr. Slow. Yeah, we're getting organized here. Hello, Panda. Panda, face the camera. Yeah. Hey. So, we're getting professional here. Doesn't mean the moderators are going to get paid or anything, so don't get too excited. Goju. Twitch, what? Twitch has used 75 bits. Cheer whale. We added 50 bits to Uber Driver's cheer. Bonus bits unlocked. We added 25 more bits. Uber driver, Twitch is adding bonus bits. 500 congrats on the artwork. Wow, we're headed for a hype train. Bonus bits. Wonder if Twitch counts as a donor. Not too professional, I hope, if you know what I mean. Well, I don't know, you could mean a lot of things. Alright. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever be too professional. Goju! 500 bits. We had 50 bits to Goju's cheer from Twitch. That's nice. Nice promotion from Twitch there. Now we're going. Goju with a donation of 500 bits. Mr. Sonia, just get to 10 tier 1 subs community. Talk about hype train. Possible hype train. 10 tier 1 subs community. Rostador. Asaragoni, Grandpa, we got Akfam, Big Head Joe, Kalux, and the calculated, that chest calculated fast. I think I forgot someone. Anyway, 10 gift subs. Thank you guys. Thank you all very much for your donation. Mr. Sohand, very generous, 10 gift subs. Thank you for the bit donations. I am going to make an effort in the next 3 months to kind of improve and coordinate my Twitch, YouTube, be a little bit more professional. I'm not going to abandon you guys. I'm still going to, do the same stuff. Beep, essentially the same stream with a better look and a little more attention to connecting my approach to YouTube and Twitch and whatnot. Okay, so we've got the game analysis ready to go. Astrobate gifting tier 1 sub to Limonado. A hype train is close. The hype train is close. We've never had a hype train in like a year. I don't know when it was. Wow, we're being bombarded with donations. Hype train is close. Sub, gift, or use bits now to start a hype train. Acerbate. You don't count. You already donated one. Acerbate, gifting tier 1 sub to community. Acerbate, gifting tier 1 sub to Dinekis. Analysis stream hype train. Could it be? It's been a long time. Alright. We're close. We've got analysis stream for you guys. I've got A. Morales, Acerbate, Schumacher, my game, my first game since the World Senior, Uber Driver versus the Devil, Mr. Slow. Stuff is still going through. We need one more person. Donate now. One more person. Donate now, person. Be the person. We've got a minute left for Hype Train. Mr. Coffee, do you have any bits? I think we need one more person. Mr. Coffee just donated 1,000 bits. Wow, 1,000 bits to bring on the Hype Train. Hype Train incoming. This is our first Hype Train in a very long time. Twitch adding 100 bits to Mr. Coffee's 1,000. Whew, Mr. Coffee, you rescued us. Hype Train, 5 minutes of Hype Train tier level 2. Twitch matching like donations with 10% extra. Mr. Slow just donated 5 more gift tier 1 subs to Hype the Med, Akatosh, Slendrina, and Inseti. And Timoteos. And Bijak just gifted a tier 1 sub to Pandaroo. Thank you, Bijak. By the way, Bijak, are you playing in Arandilovac or whatever it's called? Adalik just sent me a message that he's playing in the tournaments there. I don't know how to say it. It's only GM. I am normal. Okay. It's a closed. Okay. I wasn't sure if they had some kind of open. Okay. Yeah, one day maybe I'll play down there. Wow, another 5 gift subs from Mr. Slow. We got the Hype Train, Mr. Coffee with 500 bits, and another 50 from Twitch. This is awesome. I got games you sent me. I can add one. We're about to beat your last record. Keep up the support. 90% of the way. Yeah, I've got a game. I can add a game from your previous games. We've got 15 subs from Mr. Slow. Acerbate with 2 gift subs. Mr. Coffee with 1,500 bit donations. What else? Mr. Slow. Beep, beep, beep. We got 90% of the way there. Hype Train level 2. Acerbate gifting tier 1 sub. 97% to Sabarishk. We got 2 minutes to make to Hype Train level 2. We haven't done this in a long time. This is fun. I'm gonna keep working on improving the stream, but not too professional. Don't worry, Mr. Slow. I'm not gonna go too far. We've got 97% of the way there. Acerbate another gift sub to 100%. To Eesh is back, and that's taking us over. Hype Train level achieved. Hype. Those are little karate guys. Level 2 complete. Level 2 complete. Be right back. You like that? I like that. Good work, guys. We're coming back. Alright, the Kraken. The Kraken is back. I like doing that. I like doing that now. It's fun. But we're about to beat our last record. Keep up the support. I I like this support. 2%. Game analysis stream. Game analysis stream tonight. Morales, Astrobate, Schumacher. My game can be done anytime. Uber driver, Mr. Slow, and anyone else who's a subscriber to the stream can submit a game. If you just got a gift sub, you happen to be watching, you have a game handy you'd like to give to me, let's take a look and see if we can find Schumacher a game. Schumacher game, Schumacher message, Schumacher. You sent me a whole bunch of games before. Let's just click on number 4, for example. Was this the one we did? Was this the Kraken one? I think that one I already did. You can choose a game, any game. What's this? Queen C2? Did we do this one? This classical Nimzo? I feel like we did that one. Did we? I don't remember analyzing this. We did analyze that. Yeah, that's the one where I almost lost. Okay. Guys, thank you for your support. Up to hype level 2. Hype level 2. Sorry about the scrolling here. I know that's annoying. I should be doing this like in another window. Schumacher likes to make things difficult for me. His job is to make it difficult. He just sends lump crab meat, lump game submissions, and I'm supposed to like pick one. The hell did it go? Where the hell did they go? They like disappeared? Where are the messages? Where are the goddamn messages? Sladgie, find the message. They were there a minute ago. What is going on here? I don't understand. Dude, what is happening here? What is happening here? Where's the place where you sent me a whole bunch of games? Where did it go? It's like gone. Where did those games go? They're like gone now? I don't understand. Let me like refresh this. Close and reopen. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They were like gone or something. What if I deleted them by accident? Maybe you deleted them. There they are. It was weird. Like, what about number 1? Did I do number 1? That's the same one again? That's a d6, bishop f4. I just saw that. Number 2? What's this one? The same game? You submitted it like 5 times? I think you submitted the same game 5 times. You didn't submit the same game 5 times. This is definitely a different game with bishop f4. This is a different game. Let's look at this one. Alright, let's do this one. I'm going to do this one. I tried to play like a Lynchich. Analysis board. Study. That's not going to work, is it? Is it going to go in there? Alright. Let's put this one in there. 3rd place. And delete Schuma. So poison Schumacher. Clear annotations. I didn't even notice that before. There's a clear annotations button. Delete chapter. Oops. No. Cancel. Almost deleted the wrong chapter. This one. Delete chapter. Yes. Okay. Alright, you received Hype 2. You received a level 2 Hype train emote. Good job. Thank you guys. Thanks to all of you. B-Jock, Mr. Slow, Mr. Coffee, Uber Driver. He will learn it maybe. This is what the Be Right Back is for. Oh, this is what the Be Right Back is for, you think? I thought it was for going to the bathroom, dude. Looking for games is Be Right Back? Maybe. Be right back is when people start talking about Big Bobby, and I get bored, and I just go in the other room and start banging my wall on my head. Yeah, my walla. All right, I'm gonna bang my wall on my head and start. So you want to wait for Morales? He might show up. I'm gonna start with Astrobate's game because he's here. Then we'll do Schumacher because he's always in a hurry. But I should really do him last, because a lot of people watch the whole stream. Astrobate, Uber driver. Oftentimes, I think people tend to leave when their game gets analyzed. Your game is a long one, so you should start now. Okay. You're the boss. We'll start with Mr. Slow then. It's a long one. Watch out for the last step. Alright, it's a King's Indian. Jeez. Mr. Slow donated 15 gift subs. I appreciate it. And we need this gift subs because even though Twitch takes a cut, I really need your support to attract, new viewers to the stream. Not what I meant, but okay. Not what you meant. What do you mean? You said my game is a long one, so you should start now. That's not what you meant. It's all good. I assume we can start. It doesn't matter to anybody else. Astrobate's fine with it. We can start with yours. Mr. Slow is black, and he's got the King's Indian repertoire. What happened, by the way? You were playing the Queen's Indian against me quite a bit. So you got the two different repertoires working. Knight f3 g6. Okay, so now we're King's Indian. We're looking for King's Indian. I played a lot of g3 against him. This is an opponent who is also playing g3. G3 is a very solid approach for white. I think the most solid way to play against the King's Indian. You rarely get checkmated in the fianchetto variation. You got the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah, well, it's good to have different openings. You can play based on how aggressive or safe they are. It's great to have the King's Indian in one hand and then something more solid on the other. That's what I try to do. Okay, bishop g7, bishop g2, castles, and then d4. And now, if you're a Grunfeld player, obviously you can play d5 here. There's also an option to play c6. But Mr. So is not a Grunfeld player. He's looking for a King's Indian. Now, one thing that we have to say is that there are three families within the Kingside Fianchetto defenses, right? There's the King's Indian, the Grunfeld, and the Benoni. But really, those three families are all kind of interrelated. So what we've seen from you lately against me was King's Indians out of the c5. You were playing King's Indians out of the c5 variation, the so-called, what is it, the Pano? Is that, I always get confused. Is Pano with c5? If you play c5 now and I play d5, that's actually, I'm actually kind of confused. You need to have the knight on c6, because this is really a Benoni, right? If you play c5 and I play d5, it's actually a Benoni, right? So that's happening more often in the symmetrical English. You're not playing that here. You're not playing a Benoni. Against me, we had move orders where it was symmetrical English, and you were able to play c5 and knight c6 behind it before I played d4. And then you can, put your knight on a5, and so technically it's like a kind of King's Indian rather than Benoni. This is a more pure King's Indian move order. We have knight c3, and now you play knight to c6. I had a weird game, dude, against that guy from the World Senior. The pawn twirler. It was a strange move order. I don't remember how it went now, but I mean, he did play bishop f5 at a really early juncture, and I didn't know what to do. I was unprepared for this, you know. I didn't know if white can like take advantage of this or not. Like, normally black plays either knight c6 or c6, and then can play like bishop f5. But Grandmaster Pawn Twirler played bishop f5 against me like first, and I was not really willing to gamble on something that I didn't know. You know, I didn't know what would happen if I go knight h4, try to do something crazy like queen b3. So I just like transposed back into... That's something to think about anyway. Yugoslav variation. Yeah, that's right, Mr. Sladgie. The Yugoslav variation. That's the correct name for the c5 thing. When we're playing c5, white doesn't push to d5. We have time to play knight c6. That's the so-called Yugoslav variation. This is not. This is Pano is with knight on c6. What I'm saying is like there's this weird hybrid where you can do bishop f5. And maybe this is a new thing, you know, like honestly, when I prepared for the Pawn Twirler, I didn't see him having done this before, you know, so I think maybe I was the first like test, you know, guinea pig for what's his name? I can never remember his name. George Moore. More George in Hungarian, but more floor. But Pawn Twirler, aka More George, played this against me. Interesting stuff. Bortnik has some games here. Okay. Anyway, knight to c6. This is the Pano. White plays castles. Now you play bishop f5, and this is very safe. Papa Gligoric, brother Gligoric, as Schumacher would say. Yeah, patriarchal society, the Serbs. So, very patriarchal society. They're going to call you brother or papa. You know, bishop f5 is like the safe style, you know. This is like old school. This is modern. And this is like the safe. Now, bishop f5, white plays d5. Okay, I'm out of book now. It seems like I don't remember anything. Well, I never really intended to play this for either side, so my knowledge is not great. I mean, when I was white, I looked at just b3. You know, I didn't want to try to challenge it. And so b3, knight e4, bishop e2. This is a very safe position for both sides. I was also playing these like b3 lines, like g3, b3 lines against the King's Indian at one point, like Kramnik. And you could transpose to this. So I maybe looked at it a little bit with white, but I had never really seriously considered playing d5, and I didn't know much of the theory. I mean, I'm looking at knight d4. Knight d4 looks like it's going to hit, you know, with tempo. So the first thought is like, oh, wait, this is good. This is good for white, but you go to a5, and now the point is, if you go knight d4, your pawn is hanging on c4. Wow, so that's main line. And this is the game. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's also possible for white to retreat and then try to take advantage of bishop on f5 later. I just want to speak a little bit to those of you who are watching this stream, and we're talking about this King's Indian in general. You may say, well, boy, that's stupid, like putting your bishop on f5 so you can just get stampeded by the pawns. The idea for black is really like a hyper-modern one, I suppose, where we're kind of hoping that white will overextend themselves. The other thing is, honestly, when white plays the fianchetto variation, you know, the more pawns you put on the white squares, the more that bishop gets kind of buried. So, yeah, we get space, but at the same time, we're going to need a shovel to get our bishop out from under all those light squares, pawns. So it's not clearly advantageous for white to just keep plowing forward with pawns on white squares necessarily. The dark squares get kind of weak. Limadado said, hey, yeah, you got a gift sub, I think from Acerbate. But we had a bunch of gift subs today. Anyways, alright, so white played apparently the critical move, knight d4. I don't know anything about this. I've never had this position on the board for either side. Knight d4 is very natural, but the first question is, of course, like, what happens if black takes this pawn? So, if you look at the position, you can make, like, a determination of common denominator. My math knowledge is vast. The common denominator of these two squares is queen d3. And I suppose it's difficult to protect both. And really, black doesn't want to lose either of those things. So I think we can say the way white is like in really good shape here. If f5 goes, the black king is never going to be safe. Juicebox Wizard, welcome. I forgot to call that out. So black can't really take on c4. We apparently lose a tempo. And now there's a whole bunch of games where black has a good score. Bishop d7. Very, very okay score here for black. But notably, the top game, Vaganyan lost against Pulgar. Okay, I mean, Vaganyan is like over 70. At this point, he was already over 60 when he played that game in 2008. But, there are some concerning statistics here. Like, all the top games from 1 through 8, 9, one win for white in, like, the top 10 games, which was, like, Nikolic Murray back in 1993. So, statistically, white has a plus score, but amongst top players, it's kind of alarming. I mean, black has a lot of wins among those top games. So, Mr. Slow is black here against opponent rated 2053. So b3 is a safe move. Watch the diagonal, but in general, solid. We're going to try to counter fianchetto with bishop b2. I mean, I think the knight on a5 is a question of facing black. Yeah, Uber driver, it's queen d3. We can see that. Thank you for... Can you see that on the screen? Yeah. But the point of queen d3, it could be that white wants to play b4. We're threatening to trap a knight. This position seems vaguely familiar to me now. It's very similar to... Yeah, I guess I have seen this. Come to think of it, Alincic played it with white. I saw some games where Zlatko, my friend, who's a GM from Serbia, maybe like 10 years ago, had this with white. He did have the game a couple times with white, where his opponents now play c5. This exact line, in fact. Yeah, Zlatko played queen d3, so I guess that's considered to be the dynamic move. Yeah, if you play f5 illegally here, Uber driver, you can transpose to the Leningrad Dutch. Try to pull a fast one on your opponent by playing f5. See if they notice. You might try that at like the World Senior. I was trying some illegal moves. But c5 stops b4, most importantly. So white doesn't have to do the d takes c6. This is what I saw in Zlatko's games. There was d takes c6, knight takes c6. And in fact, if I remember correctly, there's also b takes c6. This is not for the faint of heart. You can play b takes c6, leaving the knight out in Zimbabwe, trying to use maybe c5. But if you want to play dynamically, I mean, this creates more imbalance, and it brings pawns toward the center. Keep pressure on c4. Eric Rodman versus Gennady Timoshenko, 2003. Dennis Rodman. Just want to mention that last game running last night, we were alone, only arbiters. Both down to only increment of 30 seconds. Wow, so this was just played. So it was a long game. I'll keep that in mind. There's apparently also knight g4. Kind of weird move played by Satovsky. Okay. Acerbate would be really into that move. He likes provocative knight moves. So knight g4 is possible, has a bad score. c5, and now, so he takes. And this is like the safest move. But the question is, this knight c2, you know, this is more like ambitious for white because you're keeping that knight out on a5 where it's out of play. And you're also avoiding any kind of exchanges or simplifying of the position. So I think this is like definitely more aggressive for white in a way. I found a little tricky to play with that knight on c2 in these type of structures. I mean, clearly it could go to e3 later on, but at the same time, it's not necessarily ideal. All right, so Zlatko variation takes, now knight takes, and now we have a much more simplified situation, I think. It's basically very much like an English now. Now, so b3 looks tempting, but you've got to watch the long diagonal. So could white, you know, fall victim to some kind of tactics on this diagonal? There's knight e4. Knight e4 trades everything. Mikhail Bafinik, not to be confused with the Mikhail Bafinik. This is like Mikhail Bafinik's like great grandson or something. Queen takes e4. Mikhail 2. Bishop takes c3. All right, this is boring. Boring simplification. So white plays knight takes c6. And then the question is like which way you should take. And my philosophy has always been like, it's always safer to take with a piece in the Sicilian type situations, but it's also less dynamic. So it's completely up to you. You know, I mean, I think if you're facing a higher rated player, I would prefer to go with bishop takes. This player is not significantly higher than you that it really matters, but I'm just saying that I think this feels safer, and this is more aggressive. This I call this is the ghost bishop. You know, it's really difficult to play with in a lot of cases. Like, you don't know where it really ultimately belongs. Clearly the bishop on g2 is a strong piece. So, I mean, trading that off, you know, of course he doesn't have to trade it off. He can play e4. But this is basically a Marazzi. You swapped a set of pieces. It's a standard Marazzi type of position. I mean, black should be only like a tiny bit worse here. You see here, like, there's a game between a couple 2500s, draw. Jugaya beat a 2300, big deal. All right, so knight takes c6 here, knight takes c6, b takes more aggressive. So you've got to watch like c5. That's how I almost lost to more George. Trying to be fancy with the pawn stack. A totally different position though. I mean, we had a different structure where like the e-pawns are on e4 and e5. There's no need for white to have to play c5 here. It's an idea. Okay, white plays h3, taking away the g4 square. And now, okay, no knight g4. And this is a problem for black a lot of times. Because with the bishop on d7, speaking of ghost piece, problem bishop, you know, where does this knight go to get out of the way for his bishops? You know, it's very annoying. The normal maneuver in the Sicilian is like knight d7, but I don't have it. Now I'm going to have to move my bishop again in order to move my knight, essentially. So this is Giles Morales versus Jeroen Piquet, 1990 we're following here. Another game, Fernandez Romero against Kedevan. Rook b8. And now white played rook b1 in the Piquet game. e4. Bishop f5 is a theme that can happen. So obviously if you play e4, I could play bishop f5, but white can just stomp it out with e4. I had a similar game with Morales, with Nefedov in my simul on Sunday. So there's queen c8, king h2. Well, I mean, mainly, like, Juicebox Wizard, this is the important diagonal. This like, bishop isn't going to h3, but controlling the g4 square is important for white. It's like keeping very key black pieces off of g4. Major Karpovian prophylactic idea. Notice how black is a little bit tied up. Again, like nowhere to put the knight. You're going to have to maneuver knight e8, knight c7, knight e6 or something to get the knight back in the game. So that's something that I would seriously consider here. As awkward as this looks, this is a consideration, and it's slow. Knight e8, knight here. Obviously, stuff like bishop g5 and Mr. Slow. Well, he's Mr. Slow, so slow isn't a problem. But this is a problem. I mean, now we have problems with e7. I don't like it. So he doesn't really want to play knight e8. So he plays bishop e6. No, he plays rook d8 first. Okay. So here, Piquet played bishop e6. All right. So you attempted, or unwillingly or unknowingly attempted to improve on this 1990 game. But your move is extremely logical. Piquet's move is also logical. With rook d8, I mean, it's kind of an unusual move in this type of structure, but you have kind of vague ideas against the queen. There could be an explosive d5 when the rook on d8 will play. Right now, the way the structure stands here, the rook is badly placed. It's blocked in, but it's blocked in anyway. And if you put it on e8, that's nice, but it blocks the knight from its other square at e8. So with rook d8, you keep the ability to play knight e8, knight c7, which is a key maneuver. Prophylactic considerations only. Good thing Arsenal's not here. He's probably out fraternizing. But I think that Piquet's move is the most natural. Honestly, it's like, okay, I admit, like, I had to move my bishop again, but the point is obvious. We're going to play knight d7. So Giles Morales, by the way, he passed away like last year. I never met Morales. He was like the president of the French Chess Federation or something like that, I believe. Last year or year before last, he passed away. He wasn't that old. One of the first French grandmasters, if not the first. I guess Saint-Roman was even older, but one of the early French grandmasters, Giles Morales. And Piquet doesn't play anymore. What did we just get? A notification? Hello, boys, has followed. So, I don't know. I mean, they both look good. But this is a bit more natural. I was talking to Asterbate about, bishops before rooks. Our biggest problem is sorting out this knight. I think that's our main deal here. Bishop f4. And now rook b4. This is nice. b3. So see what Piquet did? He doesn't have to do this, but he did a very active thing. He played d5. Very much disturbing the equilibrium in the position. But I think black could play more slowly, obviously. Mr. Slow's basic idea might be similar. Now white played cringe. Sorry, I'm gonna have to get my my hard hat or whatever out here. I'm gonna have to get my aluminum foil hat out. It's hard to look at that move g4. Oof. I mean, this is like, man, we're playing an online game after g4. I feel like we're playing. I don't want to like summon the ghost of Schumacher. This move is extremely loose, g4. I try to be open-minded, and I propagate open-minded play and open-minded thinking, but this is going a little too far. I mean, this looks to me like risky and probably not good. First off, Mr. Slow does this on the next move, but I mean, you've got to really consider what happens if h5. Because you have another route now, knight h7. If g5, knight h7, you can pop the knight back into play from e6. Like a dragon. It's a dragon, basically. That's what it is anyway. But with g4, I mean, this diagonal could be a factor. But I will say one thing in White's defense. We saw the game in the opening Explorer. Morales versus Picat. Morales' plan was to play bishop f4. So if you could play, my point would be, if you can play bishop f4, the bishop can maybe tuck back on g3, and then g4 isn't so bad, essentially. White also has to consider, he said he was afraid of bishop f5, but he also said that it was silly. I mean, he has to calculate this, too. I mean, you have to consider sacrifices. Takes, check, presumably king g1, and then Astrobate would play bishop e5. No, but seriously, this is probably not enough. But I would look at it, at least, consider the possibility of doing it. If you have enough time. It doesn't appear that black would have enough compensation. We only have 2 pawns for a piece. The white squares are weak. I'm not buying this, really. It's close. It almost works. Again, if we integrate this rook b4 idea, d5. I don't know, what a crazy player would do here with black. I mean, this really might actually work. Or it may be close to working, because we have d5. I don't know, maybe queen e4 isn't the right move. White's better off just giving that up and going over here or something, So 3 pawns for a piece. It's very possible that Stockfish is like, this sucks for black. It's +2. Even though you have 3 pawns for a piece, the argument would be that like pawns don't matter until the end game. And we're firmly in the middle game here. So white's still clearly better according to Stockfish. Let's just toss it out there and see what it says. Okay. I'm just curious what the computer would say at this point. I don't want to be Maurice Ashley, Pretty much what I said. +2. Pawns don't matter till the end game. King g1, rook b4. Oh, it plays rook b4 first, interestingly. After this, yeah. So it's almost exactly what I said. Except it's +2.5, not 2. Okay. It's not enough. Not to say in a practical game between 1,900, 2,000 players, white is necessarily going to win more than black. I'm not saying it's that easy, but I know a lot of players who would love just be thrashing at the bit or whatever to sack a piece. But Mr. Slow is a little more experienced. So bishop e6. Now he's got to consider the possibility of white going like f4, f5. Speaking of the Leningrad Dutch, if we're not going to sack on g4, well, we might later, If white goes too far, I mean, this could really, be a different story or something like that. So, all right. Here, I expected bishop f4, but I guess there's no... Well, I mean, he's got to watch this d5. I mean, clearly that's the idea with rook d8 in the first place, b3, and now h5. Mr. Slow, oftentimes I'll tend to, like the other day, I spread myself too thin on the white side of some position. I was very good. Sveshnikov game, I was like expanding on the king side and queen side, and then I suddenly switched over to the king side. But I mean, here you played h5 now, but I mean, our first question is like d5. I think you're probably concerned about maybe bishop f4 at some point, but I mean d5 seems most natural. takes tactics here. We're now threatening to win a pawn, possibly, when knight takes g4. So I would think like d5 would be the most logical continuation. There's this, and there's this diagonal is really nasty. But now you're shredding his pawn structure, and your own, actually. Yeah, I'm not that convinced by this. Let's say he lets you do this. You go over here, or he goes over here. And that rook is awkwardly placed. So it's not that easy, maybe. So Mr. Slow's patient in the center. He doesn't play d5, he plays h5. And then white does something that, we didn't expect. I've sort of taken g5 for granted because white wants to keep it closed around his king. And even f3 is plausible, but I mean, this bishop is not happy, and he's weakening the dark squares. This is almost like a no-brainer. And obviously, if bishop f5, white has e4. But I'm very surprised to see pawn takes pawn. Not only has white weakened his king side by playing g4, but now he's worsening his own, or allowing the worsening of his own pawn structure. So I don't know what Mr. Slow expected, but I would be expecting g5. The thing is, if g5, there's this, but there's also maybe even, this is better now, we have knight d7. Now that bishop's not on d7 anymore, it doesn't have to go to h7 and f8. You have knight d7. But still, I mean, it's not like white is in any desperate... He's not desperately lost or something, like bishop e2. You might be able to get in d5, but it's a game, I still would rather play g5 than pawn takes h5. Pawn takes h5, knight takes h5. Now, I don't like white's structure. I don't like white's king, and I don't like his structure. Bishop g5. And here, Mr. Slow played bishop f6, which has its points. The first thing that occurs to me is the classic kind of, like, Benko Gambit theme, where you actually... Like, the best way to defend the base of the pawn chain is to not defend it. Like the King's Indian with d6. Sometimes it happens in the Benko where e7 gets attacked, and then black can like just trap the bishop there or something. You were shocked by g takes h, yeah. I would be too. I would be maybe getting a little too optimistic here. And I think like you chose to play a solid move with bishop f6, but I would be looking for something, alternatives that might be more dynamic. Because we do have this. It is a valuable piece for you. I don't necessarily want to trade it. I think trading is okay, but I'm just saying, like, is there king f8? Yeah, that's another Benko. Absolutely, king f8 is possible. But I mean, if you do king f8, remember, that you could get your Malinsky. Once I did that to your Malinsky, actually his king was on e8, and I played bishop takes e7 check. But, okay. It wasn't check. It was bishop takes e7. Yeah, king f8 is an option. The best option is not defend the pawn at all. This is rather awkward, clearly. I mean, rook e8 would deactivate your own rook. Queen is possible. Obviously you've got some ideas there, but the queen's not that great on c7 either. He'll just move the king or whatever, Draw, okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there any way we can like sack that pawn? If he takes it, we play rook d7. He can always support it with c5. That's a problem, but it's not so simple. Like, say I go here. He takes the pawn. I play rook d7. Now remember, he can't take this because, well, it's a queen sacrifice, probably, after bishop e5 check. I mean, it's an interesting queen sacrifice, but it looks a bit much to me. Maybe. Maybe he could do that. Maybe he could sack a queen. It's actually close. But, I mean, this is not going to happen. If you play a5, he plays bishop e7, you play rook d7, he's going to go back. But maybe the time that it took to grab the pawn and go back now, you have some real juicy attacking chances. And the lines are starting to open up favorably for black. So I think you have interesting possibilities there to be more dynamic. This is a safe move. And then white also, I don't think exchanging bishops here on f6 is a no-brainer, you know. Although, on the other hand, if he doesn't, you know, what was the point of playing bishop g5? He has like knight e4. Under no circumstances I want him to take my bishop with his knight. So in that case, like, we probably have to go maybe here. This is an interesting move because now knight f6, pawn f6, and he has like two pieces hanging. He would have to play e4, and then you end up like getting your pawn back or whatever. Takes weird position, but a massive knight coming into f4. You know, I think that black is fine there, at least fine. So anyway, okay, he takes. Now I don't like this square, but you've got to go back to not let your structure go. And now what does white do? Yeah, I mean, you've got a good structure. The more you simplify, the more your structural advantage probably like factors in here. The H file is going to be a huge problem for white. So rook on bd1. This is almost like, no, I say it's like clear advantage to black now. And this is very blatant, you know, what Mr. Slow is doing now, but I don't think there's any way you can really hide your intentions here. Maybe Uber Driver's plan of like this and this, you know, to kind of circle over to a5. a5 is a great square for the queen. You know, this is perfect now. I mean, king g7 is not too subtle. It's obvious what we're going to do, but how can you disguise it? You know, knight e4. And he's just swapping pieces into a slightly worse position. I mean, now you have the H file, and you also have d5, but I don't know if I want to do d5 because you have this beautiful pawn structure now. You're going to play a5, a4, break his queen side. It's going to be the big island. You know, Hawaii. Hawaii versus three smaller islands. Africa is not breaking into two continents here. We're playing a5, a4. We're going to have one continent against three continents, which is a very good situation. So I like this. Knight e4, queen e4, c5 because the pawn was attacked. I mean, you lose a little bit of flexibility with this move, but I don't know that you have a better option. And you don't really want him necessarily playing c5. Okay, queen f4. White like continues to put the queen in front of his pawns. He really needs to play like e4, e5. You can always play f6 though. So white's structurally outplayed. Rook h8, rook d3, just defending. And now, you know, is white threatening anything, Mr. Slow? What's the deal with like a5? I mean, it feels like if you get in a5, a4, that's the second weakness that's probably decisive. You know, you've got him like pinned down. This is like what happened to me against Magnus Carlsen in a kind of what happened to me, worse, but kind of what happened to me against Magnus in the queen ending. He basically used the principle two weaknesses where, you know, you just tie him down to like one side or the other and eventually see, I feel like Mr. Slow may have, well, I mean, he may have gone a little too far here, but okay, he's still good. He's going to play queen here and queen h6, I think. But I think you also aren't really facing any danger, are you? So could we get in a5? And if so, if we play a5, is there a problem with a4, officer? I mean, it's a horrible move for white, but it could stymie us, you know, to the point where we can't make progress there structurally. I mean, b3 is really weak, but maybe he can hold it. All right. You leave this in reserve. Maybe it's a good idea. All right. There's no reason to rush. Shereshevsky, number one rule of endgames is do not rush. And this is now entering the endgame stage. Queen h6. White is headed, like a speeding bullet into a bad ending against an experienced player. Queen h6, rook h6, rook g3. So now this is definitely on the menu at this point. Much less danger because the queens are off. I think Mr. Slow, he knows that like a4 is an option. Will it get fixed? Will the structure get fixed if we do a5 at the wrong time? Is that a viable defense for white? Maybe. He doesn't like having his pawns on white squares. His bishop is a huge pawn. But I don't have a problem with you waiting. You played it on the next move. But I guess it's really a question, about that. Should we play it? And when? Here. And now I played... He's got like an extra pawn on g2. Yeah, I think white needs to seriously consider this option. How bad is this position? -2. And a4 the engine doesn't like a4. Well, alright. It's an option. So I like the way Mr. Slow's played the whole game. Now, carving out a square for your king is an option, but then rook g5 check. There's also the possibility of white just swapping rooks, but I think your king is going to be a killer. Like takes, king e5. Basically, black is a winning position if you get the king that active. So this might be a mistake, Mr. Slow. I don't know. You want to block your king from potentially entering the game through e5. f6 is definitely fine. But the active plan might be good. And now he goes for the a4 break. And so at this point, you might want to think about, this is unfortunate though, e5. White has great technique. You mean technique in like putting all of his pawns on the wrong color? You mean black. Alright, g5, king e3, and now I don't think it benefits Mr. Slow to necessarily release the tension. But again, he is hesitant to play rook a8. So you could play a quiet move here, like rook b6. Threatening to play rook a6, and like build up on the a file before you make the exchange. And now there's this and this. And we really, really don't want to see that white square bishop trade for our white square bishop. But it still won't completely solve white's problems. And now bishop g4. So here again, Mr. Slow is probably in time pressure. But by exchanging on g4, I think you're kind of like exchanging on his terms. I don't know that we have anything without it, or we have enough without it, but I'd rather let him exchange on e6. So this might be a good moment to grab the a file, for example. Can he do something crazy like play f4? Yeah, possibly. You played bishop takes bishop, pawn takes, and now rook h1. Again, the other possibility is play rook a8, and now you have two open files to infiltrate on. Plus, king here. He can't take away the A file, though, so it doesn't really matter. Oh my god, he did it. So now it's the big island, Wahoo, versus, what's the big island again? You reach 40th move on seconds. Okay, so this was 40th move. You've got the big island and 2 rooks on the board. You know, it looks really good chances, but I guess f4 is a good try. Check. You played check here on the 40th move. Well, it's a tough one. Hard to believe that rook e1 check can be a mistake. That's a solid move. That's a solid choice. Yeah, he's actually, well, he's lost. Wow. I didn't realize. So f4 is like losing. Holy shit. f4 is the losing move. So he might still be able to hang on here. Although I kind of doubt it. I mean, how is he going to survive with this other rook coming in? I mean, between your other rook coming in and the threat of playing king e6, king e5, we just sit on e6 and we wait, you know. And as soon as he doesn't have like rook d5 check to smack us with that, like we're just going to stick our king on like e5. His rooks can't defend against infiltration from our rooks and from the king coming into e5. And even, you know, yeah, it looks tough. But definitely not an easy position for white to defend. So f4 loses, check here, and takes. And now it's a pawn up with a good structure. So he has to take on g5. At least he can break up a Wahoo. But this is still very, very strong. This pawn chains are key. He's down a pawn, and he still has the inferior pawn structure. That's a big problem. You know, he's down a pawn, 2 weaknesses, 2 static weaknesses, and inferior pawn structure. He should be lost. Okay, we probably have to trade rooks. And then reapproach. We played rook f8 check. It looks like king f6 is okay. How are we going to defend our pawn here on e7? Is rook f8 a mistake? What about just like king f6? Because if check, well, you have lots of options. I mean, you could go active with your king here. King e5 check, king e4. If he takes your pawn, this looks promising. But you could also just play like king here and reevaluate. All right, check here, and now it's awkward to protect e7. Maybe it doesn't matter, you know. Maybe you're just doing like e5, rook f6. He's cut off here, so actually his last move may be a mistake. He should go to. Oh, if he goes, he should go to e2. I guess e2 is a better move, right? Because now he's not cut off when you play like, you know, his king gets cut off on g3. Now this is no problem because of rook f6. You're going to bring the king around. Exactly. And then he's desperate, so he played b4. Takes here, and now you have to be accurate. B, B, B. Mrs. B. I'm going to cry if you don't win this game. Live on stream. If this isn't winning, I'm going to start crying. You have e4. It's an interesting try. e4. Rook takes b4, check. King g2, and then king here. Now rook b5, cutting us off. But you may still be winning. Like rook there. Rook check, king e6, rook h5, rook takes with 2 connectors. You're winning. All right, here, 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 here. But now the problem is rook b6. It doesn't matter is your answer. You're saying it doesn't matter because you have king e7. This is the point. He's banking on rook b6, king e6, c5, which is a draw. But Mr. Slow has king e7. And now the million-dollar question is, White has some fancy move here. Like c5. He tries it. Arsenal fan, with us. Are you with us or against us? Alright, I'm just wrapping up our first game. It was a fascinating game. So takes. Oh my god. Wow, this is going to get crazy. So he has no choice. Hold on a second. So if this move... Obviously this is going to get really problematic. Okay. You have to take. Now your pawns are split. 3 islands. The problem is, man, I mean, the C pawn is a million miles from home. You know, he's just not getting over there. And now your king is free, so you're winning. Okay. You had it all the way. We gotta be careful. Rook f7. Other winning moves include king d5. Apparently. Intending to get behind. So now c2, rook a1, rook c7, rook c1, king d5, g6. You see, this is probably what concerned Mr. Slow. Something like this. You're probably winning with something along these lines. King here, king e6, king e3, king f5, king d3, even rook d4 check. He can't take the pawn. And even this is a draw. So you got to go back here. Yeah, this is concerning. So you cannot let him do that. You have to go here. And let's say on like king d2, take the pawn, check, king f4, and he hides back here, but you're 2 pawns against none. Tricky though, you have to be accurate. So you decided not to do that, to go into this kind of stuff, and you played no rook c7, but king d5. A little awkward. Mr. Slow's having his second time pressure now. Most likely, but a second time pressure for second pass pawn. Yeah, I figured you're in the second time pressure. Wow, and the guy actually reached a drawn position with rook d8 check. I know, I mean, it's like, the time control is very problematic. I've lost so many endings I shouldn't have lost because of the newer time controls. The time controls specifically destroy endgames, you know? The modern time controls. This 2 games in 1 day crap with like 90 minutes plus 30-second increment, no second time control. Or even 60 minutes, no second time control. It really should be like rapid or something. I mean, it really shouldn't be like classically rated. You were lucky though. He did have a draw at one point. This is crazy. You actually have to win a queen ending now. Wow. He doesn't have a perpetual check. Nice. I mean, it's a standard winning pawn. If everything else is... It's only the rook pawn that's a problem, generally speaking. Knight pawn is harder. The further outside the pawn is, the harder it is, because your king can't hide. Okay, this is a very long game, as Mr. Slow said, so I'm going to just wrap it up. At this point, we're winning. There's no way that black has perpetual check. What happened here? White resigns. Why did he stop checking you? He has another check here. It seems like a weird moment for the game to end. Maybe you just... The game didn't really end here. You just stopped entering the moves or something. I would assume he would continue to play more here. With Queen B6 check. King C3, Queen C7 check. You know, it's still not easy. Anyway, very interesting game. A technical win for black. Crazy stuff. Good stuff though. No, he resigned. He was simply done. He was done psychologically. Oh, you have like a check on D4. Okay, like so King C3 check. Where are you gonna go though? D3. But you couldn't you have gone to D3 before? He'd still check you on G3. You're not like forcing a trade of queens that simply, are you? It seemed like a weird moment from the resign. That's all I'm saying. Like it wasn't that obvious that he was more done than he was 3 moves ago. He's probably very tired as well. No, yeah, at least 4 hours. It was probably more than 5 hours. Juice box. My game was 5.5 hours, so this could have been 5.5. I don't know. Yeah, I was almost 6 too. My game on Sunday. All right, we'll be right back. I'm gonna take a 1-minute break. 4 hours is about the average. Yeah, we'll be right back in a moment. All right, we're back. We are back. Okay. Thank you, Ponda. Ponda responsible for all artwork here. Alright, thank you. Mule Skinner just subscribed with Prime. Mr. Slowhand said, I would order an overpriced Kraken t-shirt or hoodie. Merch. Long sleeve t-shirts and t-shirt hoodies. Dude, I mean, Juicebox is complaining about 34. Unbelievable. I know he has some issues, but you guys, I mean, I'm 50. And I've got, shoulder pain, elbow pain, stuff that never hurt before. I don't want to hear any complaining from the 30 and 40-year-olds. I know sympathy. Damn, dude. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Alright. We gotta move on with some games here because that was a long one. And Mr. Slow did warn us. Alright, so who else is here? Asterbate. Mule Skinner, you didn't send me a game? But you did. Whoa. Whoa, look at that. Look at that. That's a game. When was this sent? Today. Well, thanks for being specifically Chess. That was sent today. That was early today. That's a long, another 100-move game. You sent the one time. It's fine. It's fine. Copy. Watch, learn, study. Thanks for the hype train today. Dead. Thanks for the hype train today. Alright, study. Learn the Karokan like a... Jesus Christ. Pathetic. No, bosses don't play the Karokan, dude. Jesus Christ. Play the London system like a boss. Bosses play the Kraken. Alright, we got December. This is it. Alright, add a new chapter. God, there's even clickbait studies now. Your game was broadcast live on the site. We can hopefully not just there, but on good sites too. Mule Skinner. Well, it may have been broadcast in other places too then. Save chapter. The Mule. Let's go in order. Thanks guys for your support. Mule Skinner, how's your time? Are you in a hurry? Hurry, no hurry? Don't forget, we can use the nil system. Where we pay extra. You can bribe me. Do game first. Alright. So let's do Asterbate quickly. You can wait. Okay. It's better if people wait, then they watch the other games. Oh my god. Asterbate's opponent played the Bullet Defense. That has a name, disgustingly. Yeah, that's disgusting. That some German Grandmaster actually played that. I hope that was a Blitz game, at least, on the site that shall not be named. So Asterbate submitted this game. The name that shall not be mentioned. Knight takes e5. Obviously, you have to take the pawn. Black plays knight c6. So basically, it's an Eric Rosen gambit. But this does pose an interesting situation now. And while I think this opening, the extent of the usefulness of this opening is 1 minute bullet chess or faster, it does raise an interesting question as to what white's best move is in this position. It's not obvious to me, at least, whether it's superior to take on c6, play knight f3, or defend the knight with, say, like d4. Thoughts? I have faced this in blitz chess, and I think my preference is to go with knight f3. Bring in knight back. It costs time. This is clearly not a good square. So knight takes c6, d takes c6. The other option. An improved Eric Rosen gambit. Okay, whatever. It's good. They're both good. Knight f3 is good. Knight takes c6 is good. And I think that d4 is also fine, probably. Because ultimately, what's black going to do here? Take on e5, takes on e5. Now black has a problem with his pawn is interfering with his development. Pawn interfering with development. What's black going to do? Probably d6. And then you can continue to harass him with something like bishop f4. So we want to make life difficult for black by only exchanging on our terms. Yeah, I would imagine this is pretty bad for black, actually. All right. So Asterbate takes on c6. And then the guy takes with the d pawn. It's also possible to take with the b pawn. It doesn't do so much for his development, obviously. Now, you're going to see more of this because of people like Eric Rosen promoting the so-called whatever that stupid gambit is in the Petrov, which is just trash. But Asterbate here, do you play e4? Do you play e3? He decides to play e3. And this is a much safer move than e4. But obviously less aggressive. We're blocking this bishop. This is a consideration. Asterbate's trying to stay faithful to his opening setup. He's playing with like b3. But I would argue that it's not necessarily appropriate here. There is, however, the half-open file, along the e file. So, but there is a question of what exactly you're going to do with your bishop. Are you going to play bishop b2? Then you're going to play bishop b2. I think in a vacuum, like e4 is the best move. Then after knight f6, we're going to transpose to the stupid gambit. Knight f6 is Eric Rosen gambit, which is just garbage. But you have to be a little bit careful for white. So Asterbate plays e3. It's safe, solid. Black plays knight f6. I also think like maybe he wants to keep this option open. So this is obviously not good because we have d4 with tempo. So black's other option would be to play bishop d6, maybe keep this open. If black wants to be really crazy, he could play like queen h4. I mean, this isn't so stupid if you consider what opening we're playing here. Queen h4 maybe prevents white from playing queen out to h5. This isn't that stupid. I also think this is flexible, not committing the knight to f6. So now Asterbate goes b3. See, this b3 now can't be met by something like queen f6. Bishop b4, very strange move. I think this is dubious. The bishop clearly doesn't belong on that square. Stafford gambit, right? As if it matters what it's called. It's just like clickbait opening. I can't wait to get my chessable Stafford gambit. Chessable Stafford gambit course signed up for. E4, F3, C3, and D4. The bubble. Just remember the bubble. Concepts. Not memorizing moves. Concepts are more important. So bishop E4. Yeah, I mean, if black has two moves in a row here, maybe like castles and rook E8, I guess bishop E4 might be relevant. Yeah, and now, this is the second time today I've criticized Acerbate for a move, but I just don't like C4. You know, I mean, there's really no reason to play this move in this position. I get it that you're controlling the D5 square, but I think the weakening involved with making the C4 move is, you know, the problems with it are more than the gains. We're gaining control of D5, but we're also like weakening this whole diagonal, particularly these squares. And we're also interfering with our bishop, which doesn't necessarily help. There's also the fact that, yeah, I mean, this half open file here, we have less options as far as defense there. So I don't like C4 Acerbate. It feels like you're like obsessed with doing the same structure. And you've got to handle every position a little differently. So this move doesn't seem necessary. Now black moves the bishop again. And here you have options. You know, you could play queen c2. You could play even f3. But you chose to play what I would say is the safest. And now again, black should probably play the move that, let's say, allows him to play on his terms. What move is best for black to play on his terms? He's down a pawn. It's a gambit. We shouldn't trade pieces. So I think h5 is the move. I mean, obviously you have to consider stuff like bishop takes f6, but I don't think it works because here. So what do you do now? You're not able to like really force a simplification. This helps black. This helps black open the h file. Weird. I thought I heard a dog whimpering. Okay, that was maybe Acerbate's opponent. Okay, so this is a huge mistake. Bishop takes e2. Trading on white's terms. Queen takes e2. And now black should probably castle peanut gallery. I think you're down a pawn, you want to keep it in balance, so try to go queenside maybe. I'm also not certain like allowing bishop takes f6 would be that bad, but let's just say queen e7. And try to castle queenside to make the game more imbalanced, because we're down a pawn anyway. So instead he just hangs a knight. That's deep, Acerbate, you got it. Nice miniature. And then he's just fried. He just was angry. He sacked his queen out of frustration after he like dropped a piece. Oh, the mate. Alright. It was a good mate, Acerbate. Nice. Very good, very good. We need a transition. I think we need a transition. Alright. I'm going to need to come up with a new transition between games or something. Next game. Next game we've got Morales playing white. Alright, so Mr. Move 11 is not here. Mr. Move 11, where are you? Move 11 was talking about, how did he know? Oh, maybe Morales submitted a Caro-Kann last time. He only submits Caro-Kanns for white. His favorite opening to play against. King Kong, Sire. It's Sire or Siri Milas. So e4, c6, d4, d5, e5. Morales believes in the e5 square, and he also really scores well, I feel, and plays a good game against Caro-Kann with the c5. Black plays bishop f5, the best move. Not to hurt the feelings of the people who play c5, but I still, I don't know, I've tried to play both. I feel much more secure with bishop f5. c5 just feels like it's really Black's trying too hard. And now knight to d2. Black plays e6, and then Morales plays his tricky variation. So mostly knight b3 is the move now. That's been popular for like 7 or 8 years. I first saw this when a friend of mine had a game with it around, or maybe I first saw it online, but I first saw it around the time when I started streaming. I guess it was 2016, 2017. It's a relatively modern idea, and I remember being kind of freaked out by it. I was like, wow, I can't believe White can do this. He's like just going knight d2, knight b3. On the queen side in the advanced Caro-Kann, I mean, you just spent 1-2 tempes on e4, e5, and now you're doing like knight d2. It seems really abstract almost, but it's proven to be a quite. I mean, I don't know why Morales doesn't play this. Let's say I did have a game with White where, I guess if you take too much time and you let Black get in c5, it can be problematic. You got to be careful about it. Like c5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, queen a5 check, c3, queen takes c5. So here we see a bunch of games where, it's a little surprising. Like Black can give up. You might say, well, it's surprising that Black can give up his dark square bishop, his good bishop, for a knight, and everything's okay. But again, we have to factor in the element of time. I mean, White has basically spent, as I said, 1-2 tempi on e5, and another 2 tempi on knight d2, knight b3. Now, we've got nothing to show for that. We've given up the dark square bishop for Black, but I mean, at least Black has some development and a strong pawn on d5. So Morales, anyway, he doesn't go into this knight b3 thing. He plays this kind of rare move, g4. And now, let's look at who plays this. Morozevich. And that's pretty much it. One game by Morozevich. Vallejo played it back in 2009, so this is actually older. 2009, 2010, 2013. Let's see what we get with knight b3. 2008. Leiko, 2008. There's some 2009, again, Karyak and Leiko. So, I mean, but it seems like it really was more developed lately. This g4 is a surprising move. So bishop g6, and now knight e2. So there's the Perunovic, the Serbian Grandmaster. Bacaturo from Italy. There's a couple strong players here who have played this. Just hold on for a second, guys. Oh, we're going to literally be right back. Like 1 minute. I'm only leaving for 1 minute. Okay, let's get a little more interactive analysis here with the Panda. Sorry, guys, I just had to step out. Yeah, it's a rare variation. But I actually had a problem against Morales. 92. You can see my games. 0 games. Well, that's weird. Wow, I didn't face this. You faced the Kraken. That's weird. So Morales played knight b3 against me. Odd. So he's tried both. Okay. But I don't remember. I thought I had a game with Morales like this. That's strange. So I do not have any games against him here. Bishop g6, knight e2. And now his opponent played h6. So black to play. Wei is threatening knight f4. I swear I had considered h5. What do you guys think about this? h5, knight f4, bishop h7. Can black do this, or is it just like trash and like black's losing a pawn? Let's get more interactive follow and analysis from the peanut gallery. I don't want to just be analyzing here by myself. I want you guys to involve those who are still here watching the stream. I don't want to feel like I'm just analyzing by myself, because then I don't talk out loud. You know, I mean, more analysis from the viewers, please. This is like knight off sides, and it's such a strong bishop. You know, I would think black might have compensation. And this leaves white with a broken structure. So let's see what the computer says. I don't like to overuse the engine, but I just want to see this particular move valid. Wow. Wow. Novelty. If I had a gut instinct that I didn't like h6 as much, it's passive. So this seems like a very critical option. Computer likes all these other moves. Okay. It doesn't like h6, but it also doesn't love h5. It wants to play other things. But h5 is playable. Knight f4. Wow, and now the point would be not to play bishop h7. Let's see. Knight takes h5. Not enough compensation. Let's see. c5. Check. Knight somewhere. Knight c6. So here the computer doesn't think black has enough compensation. Because ultimately takes, and now this bishop is overloaded. Okay, I mean, there are some similarities with those old knight c3 variations, Mr. Slow. Anyway, I just wanted to think about it, you know, if h5 is available or not. White might be tempted to sack a pawn with something like g5. That's also kind of like a positional pawn, so I don't think it can be good. So it looks like c5, the move played in the game, is good. Or wasn't played in the game. No, my bad, I'm sorry. c5 is good, it's the main move, and it wasn't played in this game. So this is original game, Vallejo versus Karpov from 2009. Vallejo winning the game. You know, I've argued for a long time that not to hurt a really good person who's, you know, a member of the Russian Duma, but Karpov, you know, he really was not the same post like 2003. I mean, he wasn't playing serious competitive tournaments really mostly exhibition stuff. It reminds me of Spassky, you know, after he stopped being world champion. He just wasn't the same, you know. You see, like, Vallejo versus Karpov, 2009. That's really, like, late, to the point where Karpov's he's just, like, you know, doing exhibitions and stuff. He's not the same player he was. So it almost doesn't count, you know. It's like, okay, c5 makes the most sense. Instead, black in the game plays h6. This is extremely passive for black. You got no counterplay, and the only thing it does is give you, you know, bishop h7. But it even has, I think, a negative impact on black's position. Now f6, that break, you know, is going to be unlikely. So there's a game here. Our good Hungarian player Glidora. It's weird. I don't know what his deal is. He was studying at Susan Polgar University or something. So h6, okay. h6 is bad. Knight f4, bishop h7. And now Morales, very logical, you know, I think. Black has spent quite a bit of time on that bishop, so trading it off our good bishop for bad bishop, but still, it's the bishop spent, bishop f5, bishop h7. He's invested quite a bit of time. I don't think that bishop d3 is clearly bad. This player against Glidora played knight b3. That's more aggressive. We're not trading off any pieces and keeping c5, you know, under control. Well, what I wonder about there is that, okay, Glidora was young, back in 2015 still. I never quite fully understood how he got to 2600, but I never played him. Knight b3, knight d7, bishop e3. And again, we can't do c5 here, can we? I mean, we could do a version of that, right? Like, again, if d takes c5, bishop takes c5. If knight takes c5, queen e5, check. The same thing, you know. c3, queen takes c5. Is it bishop e3, queen c7? I like this bishop. I think white is got a problem with the e5 pawn. And he's also, it's not clear where white's king is going to go in the long run. So Morales plays bishop d3. Black swaps. Our knight can get hit at some point on f4. It could always go to h5, but he comes back with a knight. Yeah, but I mean, the question is, like, did white really get an advantage here? And I'm not that convinced. First thing is, like, I don't know where white's going to put the king. You know, does Shirov care? Yeah. Maybe not. Alright. Attacking the pawn, knight b3. Yeah, I mean, I don't like queen b6. I think this is a far more natural move. Black's hoping to play first c5. I also think h5 might be an idea. For black. A deferred, you know, h5. I still think that black is essentially fine here. But queen b6 feels kind of artificial. There's this idea, maybe of putting the queen onto this diagonal. Knight d7. We have really no c5. Bishop e3. Cranking down on c5. And then this move, which is like a... Feels like black is a London system player. Damn, I mean, rook c8. You got to sign up for the Eric Rosen Chessable course on the London Caro-Kann, whatever. You know, every opening is like the Caro-Kann and these robotic things. This rook c8 is really I mean, does that even matter? Is it possible to play c5? I mean, is this a tournament game? No, this is Morales. He doesn't play in tournaments, as far as I know. White plays a4. Black isn't threatening anything, so I think, first of all, I don't like queen b6. Secondly, I don't like rook c8. Black doesn't have a plan. He's just kind of sitting there. And a4, white takes space. And now a6. And I think, at this point, if we play a5 and then knight c5, even the b pawn could be backward. Morales grabs more space. Queen a7. So what I'm saying is, if we drop a piece on c5, black takes it, we take back, then even this might be a weakness. White has too much space here. The argument would be black doesn't have any bad pieces, but I think that black has no space. Bad pieces, he has all of his pieces are bad. It doesn't matter, f4, f5's coming. I've got news for you. It might be better not to put the queen on a7 as well. Really? Are you going to play c5 or b6? Because if not, then I say put the queen back on, more in the center, a d8 or c7. Because it seems to me like black is about to get blown away by f4, f5. If we don't have any counterplay, we're done. It's not enough to be solid here. It's just a matter of time till f4, f5. Queen a7, and I'm surprised that Morales didn't go with his normal kind of primitive type of approach here. If it was me, he probably would have played f4. I just don't see any counterplay for black. It looks like a one-way game. White's just going to play. Astrobate just gift 2678. Yeah. To the Xmas Fund. 2678. 2678. To make it an even 45678. We've got to get to 5. We've got to get to 620 for donations. 500 is no longer the goal. The goal is actually 620. Not 420, 620. Aspie, thank you, man. You've been very generous, and I really appreciate it. So it looks really good for white, but instead Morales goes more development, queen d2. But I don't know, maybe the queen was good here. I also think Morales can play f4 and develop the queen like that. I just don't see any counterplay for black here whatsoever. Looks like he's lost. Okay, maybe you're gonna play b6 on the queen side. I mean, that looks insane, Let's just say you played f4 and black. What's he gonna do? That? You can't do this. I mean, you can't be serious. Black can't play c5. Now his a pawn is weak. It's game over, man. Game over. Never get out of the boat. So I feel like Morales played a little more hesitantly than he would against me in, say, a rapid game. 97. This is probably a blitz game, by the way. Now, absolutely black's threatening nothing. Right? Is there any threat? I mean, is there a threat to play c5 and then knight c6 or something? Because it looks to me like black has absolutely no threat whatsoever, ever. Yeah. He's played himself into a space vacuum. I know, dude's in a black hole. There's nothing that black can do. He's literally hopelessly dead. I don't even have the remotest idea what can black can do. There's literally no hope. If you play maybe h5, I guess if you could play h5, white play g5, and you could lock it up, you might be able to create a fortress. Unfortunately, that's, first of all, you can't force that. It's another reason why I don't like queen d2. Black should play for that light square, like, bind. You know, you never should have put the queen on d2. This is a good diagonal, and you're controlling h5. There's no reason not to put your queen on, like, f3 or e2. Knight g6, h4. So knight g6. Yeah, right. Well, another reason not to put the queen on d2. So I don't like this move. Now he dumps his knight on c5. It's a blitz game. Okay, it's like really unnecessary, it feels like. Black is not threatening c5. He has no counterplay. Only Mr. Slow's like knight g6, knight h4, knight f3, which is really long-winded and like ultimately isn't good. I mean, obviously, like if black goes knight g6, we can play f4, and if knight h4, we play rook f1 or whatever. Forget about it. When black is done. Another thing about rook c8, right? At least if he hadn't played rook c8, black could castle queenside or something. You know, now it's like even that's not an option. Maybe black's like it's terrible. Okay, this isn't necessary. Now black plays h5. Yay! Black has an idea for the first time. Congratulations, black. You actually have an idea. That's the best move he made the whole game. Trying to carve out a white square bind sort of blockade defense. And so Morales, you know, he doesn't want to play g5. You could take, and then black could sit there with like his knight on f5 or whatever. So this looks good. He played f3. But again, not really understanding why black makes this move. Pawn takes pawn. Caveman, caving in. Maybe he wants to put his rook on h3. Release of tension. Maybe he was taught that you should capture toward the center. But I'm honestly not thrilled about that for white. Like, that is worth more than that, yeah. He just puts his rook on h3. A little bit of knowledge is a very dangerous thing, you know? Play actively. Someone told this guy to play actively. But, I mean, this doesn't do anything. You just play knight f4 if you wanted to. Well, black's in trouble. You know, he never should cave and take on g4. The pawn on h5 is worth more than the pawn on g4, probably, or the pawn on f3. Black's still in trouble, but I guess something like what Mr. Slow was talking about, knight g6. Actually, I mean, as it stands here, we're keeping an eye on g4, so we're kind of discouraging white to play f4. If white's playing f3, he can't play f4, which means that you were joking. Okay. I'm saying, if white's just playing f3, then he can't play f4. Then we're okay. I know you're kind of joking, but his position is so bad, Mr. Slow, that you might actually be right. You know, like, that's his best plan. I mean, his position is literally that bad that he might really have nothing to do. But I say don't take on. I guess if he takes, he figures there's no f pawn to roll me with f5. All right. So takes, but rook h3 is bad. And now Morales just locks the queen side. Which is okay. You know, I think, like, at this point, if he moves the knight away, at some point black can take on c5, maybe. So he locks it up. That's okay. Knight takes c5. Now, my first inclination would be to take with the b pawn. Kind of clamp down and then create another thing that black has to worry about. But that would lock the structure. Maybe black's king can chill on like d8. I mean d7. So knight takes is also interesting. Now knight g6. Exchanges do help black though. I mean this might not be a bad thing. And that's what happened in the game. Here Morales castled, and black took. the problem is maybe nothing is enough. Nothing is. There's just not. There's even the maximum number of like good moves here won't save black. It's too late to save black, essentially. So now your queen is on a7. I question that because this is so relevant. This wasn't a great game, but it's an instructive game in some respect. And that's why Morales obviously sent it in. I think putting the queen on a7 was a bad idea. Yeah. Mr. Slow agrees. And now queen b8, it's a little too late, but no way to protect the rook. Morales is trying to self-mate himself. Well, as we saw, black has rook c7. I guess queen c7, but ultimately castles would be good for black. If black could castle kingside, might almost be holdable. Still looks bad. Now, bishop versus knight, Bobby Fischer. f5 instead. Oh, does he have this for a moment? I mean, when Morales plays king g2, he cuts off his own defense of h2. So, for a moment, king g2 was, maybe a mistake. He could have played queen g2, but that drops the bishop. All right. Ironically, that might have worked. Queen g2, rook e3, queen f2. Problem? Anyone? So queen g2. Probably rook h7 like in the game. Alright, he plays king g2, rook goes back, and now this is a thing. So on this move, black could have played f5. It's still deep breath. So bishop g5. Probably. Boop, boop. And despite his best efforts, it still looks like black's lost after bishop g5. Probably still lost. It's ironic that there's nowhere safe to put the black king. You can't go here, you can't go here. You can't go here, you can't go here. And if you go here, you get hit by pawn takes f5, pawn takes e6 check. So under no circumstances is the black king safe. And the Uber driver's but maybe f6. Yeah, maybe not. What I'm wondering about now is c4. I wonder if c4 will happen. c4 would be funny because you could really not only attack the center but maybe set up stuff like queen here. I think that black's in desperate trouble no matter what. Yeah. It's a horrible position. Bishop g5, queen d7, h4, and this is very satisfying now. Knight h8. Yeah, this is brutal. 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 Bobby Fischer. Bishops are better than knights. The Cowboys. Bishops are called cowboys in Uber Driver world. That's why I play Red Dead Redemption. Because I like cowboys better than horses. Cowboys versus horses. Yeah, it's just brutal. Alright, so we got that game. Mr. Slow, Acerbate. Next is Schumacher. And Schumacher, Uber Driver, and Mule Skinner. And it's only 8:42. Bribery. Ashby, thanks for the tip. tip mix. That's like the lotto here in Hungary. It's called tip mix. Tips are like betting. Maybe that's German. I don't know. But tip, it's probably something they borrowed from the Germans. Tip is like betting on sports and stuff like that. All right. Thank you for the tip mix. If we get really bored, we can see my game from the Hungarian Team Championship. Maybe I'll say that for the last really hardcore viewers. I did play the Kraken, my second Kraken. So I've got Schumacher. Schumacher's sitting out. He sits out and waits for his game. Sit on the bench, please. So our Serbian friend, Mr. Schumacher, playing white against me. This was played a couple weeks ago. It's a classical Nimzo. And this was a thing that happened in 2000 when my mom was sick and I moved her here back in 2019. I remember I played my first I had taken like 6 months without playing, and I came back. I lost to Robert Torma, and then I went to Kecskemét and played Ilincic. And I was white against Zlatko, and I played this system against his D6. And so I started to incorporate this D6 since I started thinking about it 5 years ago. Because really, it's never been regarded as really a main line. But I mean, Zlatko makes an interesting argument for this. Older variation. He's passed away last year, but Farrago Ivan also, when I mentioned it to him like 4 years ago, he said, "Oh yeah, this is a well-known variation." I was like, "Really?" He thought it was completely standard in his opinion. I mean, this is the opinion of an 80s era grandmaster, which wouldn't be the same opinion, as like, let's say, a young grandmaster necessarily, but I was surprised by Farrago's attitude that he considered to be actually quite normal, and in my experience it had been exceedingly rare to ever see D6 played. So I decided to start playing this occasionally. And particularly, problematic is like, well, how should white approach it, on the next move? I played it specifically with knight f3 because Ilincic has this very strange idea here that he's playing h6. And the only point really of h6 obviously is that it cuts out bishop g5. And I thought, man, when I saw this, I couldn't resist playing this with white. I said, come on, there's no way that h6 is a good move for black. And it's true, but at the same time, it's actually not that easy to take advantage of. But black doesn't have to play h6. I mean, there's other more normal moves. So that's why I played c5. This is what Ilincic would normally do in these lines anyway. So the idea is that if d takes c5, we're taking with the bishop. This there's a game here, Kashishvili versus Joel Benjamin. Interesting matchup because Joel's they're both very good positional players. And I lost against Kashishvili with white in a classical Nimzo once. So he actually plays a Nimzo with black. So it's interesting to see Georgi playing white there. But this is definitely possible, taking with the pawn. That's what Joel did. But anyway, going back a moment, I don't know that knight f3 is the critical test. Bishop g5, there has to be a reason why Ilincic is playing h6 after knight f3. He doesn't like bishop g5. Here it's knight on bd7, I guess. What about a3? Now we have to take Nakamura Yakovenko, Daniel Bogdan, the pacing lion. So a3 takes queen takes. Maybe this is white's best line, objectively. Just force this transposition to this type of like b6 line or whatever. It's kind of a transpositional variation. I guess I would if I had to do over again, I might play a3. Okay. So knight f3, c5 takes, and that's not the best move according to the opening explorer. But let's see what the computer says. It's the best move according to the engine. It's def 24, cloud. So I think this is quite interesting. There's almost an even split between the number of games that were played with d takes c5 and e3. E3 transposes, you mentioned the Hubner Uber driver. E3 transposes to a hybrid, where and Schumacher has played stuff like this against me before. But again, here you're basically, look at that, Humpy Konaru beat Korchnoi in 2009. You're playing a hybrid of the E3 and classical Nimzos, which is a bit weird for white. You know, it's not bad, but it's something it shouldn't be anything special. So, you know, this is much more in keeping with the standard approach for white in the Queen C2 or classical Nimzo, I think. Kashishvili played Ikonikov, Dennis Wagner. Sarkar, you know, may not be that strong, but he's pretty knowledgeable in the openings. He played that, lost to Benjamin as well. I'm sure it wasn't because of the opening. Another guy lost against Korchnoi in 2010. So interesting that Korchnoi has played this a couple of times for black. 1984 game between Lembit-Ol and Nomkin when they were young. Alright. So I decided to play the more dynamic way here. Most people took with the pawn. I'm losing control of the center there. So I felt like this is more keeping with the way that Zlatko plays, and also it's just more dynamic in general for black. So at this point, it's funny because Schumacher did kind of similar thing to what I did and lost against Zlatko. I hate the London system, as you all know. I ended up like putting my bishop on f4, and then playing like an absolute idiot. Like after that, I actually castled queenside and went berserk. But I get it. Like in this type of position, I would think like bishop f4 might happen in some cases. As you can see, this is actually the main move. But I felt it was weird to put the bishop on f4 here. Okay, we're following this guy. The guy's name is Goy, ironically. This guy, who I have no idea who he is, has a game against Korchnoi. I mean, what is that? Like the Swiss Team Championship? I mean, a simul? I mean, Victor could still play very well until the early 2000s. And I think he was like certainly as sharp as Karpov, but more competitive, you know. He was really playing. Karpov just did exhibitions and stuff. Of course, he's older than Karpov, but that's not the point, you know. Like, Korchnoi didn't ever really retire. Like, Karpov retired, essentially, in, like, 2003. I mean, there was a difference, you know. Korchnoi was old, but he never retired. He really, like, was fighting very, very hard. I saw him play a tournament here in, like, 2006, and he was still fighting and fighting. This is a weird move, bishop f4. So why does Schumacher play bishop f4? Why not like e3? This could easily transpose to a Queen's Gambit style position. e3, bishop g5. Dennis Wagner, 2600 player. He actually lost. h6, bishop h4, g5. Whoa. I haven't seen this game. And black goes for the b. I'll be honest though, I know Black's play here is bordering on like over the top. I feel like White has a very good London. Once the eval plus 1.1. Yeah, I don't trust this methodology of play for Black. This looks like it went a little too much, too far. He's very fortunate to play like a freaking maniac and beat a 2580 there. G5 seems like I wouldn't do that. I'm not even sure I would play H6. So Bishop G5 is a better move. A3 is a kind of normal-ish move that was played in a game. E3 is a normal move, but this Bishop F4 looks strange. Korchnoi went and played E5 right away. I was not even considering E5 right away. I wanted to be more flexible, and I think the computer likes it. Let's see. Yeah. But you gotta really appreciate Korchnoi's chess. If you hated him, if you loved him, whatever, you gotta appreciate his chess. He was very creative, really aggressive, resourceful. So I played here castles, and this transposes to another game I didn't realize. I mean, my move is like safer, Korchnoi just goes E5. I wanted to keep that kind of in reserve. Anyway. Alright, Schumacher must have left, but Bishop F4 castles, and now I expected something like what happened here in this game, along the lines of Rook D1. It looks like a more normal Nimzo type of line. But I played E3, I'm sorry, he played E3, and now I came up with an interesting idea, which is weird, and I think the computer doesn't like this. Rather than just playing like, a standard type of setup, I was concerned about Knight B5. I'm concerned about Knight B5. I don't really want to play passively. White can castle queenside and go for it. Knight G5, G4. So this move struck me as interesting. Maybe I borrowed it from some positions in like the London system, specifically geared toward taking out Knight B5. A lot of times Lynch has to play like A5 on the queen side in these type of lines. Like if I do A3, he plays it later, and I had to do A5, and this square is weak. This is unorthodox, but I have two ideas: taking his knight and also development of the bishop to this diagonal, like a Fort Knox French. So I expected him to maybe go for this at some point, but I think it's too early. White has like problems with bishop b4 check. Take care of Juicebox Wizard. Good luck in your next parachuting expedition. I think after a3, he'll be able to maybe think about b4 later on. Bishop e2, and then bishop c6. So we're looking at this diagonal. We're discouraging g4. I was half prepared for him to castle queenside, but White castled kingside, and now, again, I don't see any reason to do this, to create like unfluid, to make my pawn structure no longer fluid, defluidize my pawn structure. I saw no reason to play e5 unless it really did something. So I played a5, knight on bd7, a3, a5, and then he plays this, and now I decided to play e5 because my pawn is under attack. But I'm trying to remember, and I think his move is good, his setup is good, but why did I play e5 now when I don't necessarily have to? Bridget has nothing to do with this. You're thinking, like that French actor. Again, it's a good thing Arsenal left. What's the French actor that like got Russian citizenship? He's always rigid. Rook FD1. Well, that's what he says to all the ladies anyway. Yeah, Queen E7. I like Queen E7. What's wrong with Queen E7? Why did I commit to this E5? Okay, it was a blitz game and I was running out of time. I think E5 is just unnecessary as yet. He plays Bishop G5, which is probably right, and now Queen B6 getting out of the pin. This also helps prevent B4. I mean, clearly White has Knight A4, but takes, Queen takes B2, and his bishop's hanging. I would be able to sacrifice my queen at the very minimum, right? Rook B1. But anyways, Knight E4 is not a problem. He plays this, and now I went A4, stopping the B4 advance. He plays this. See, that's a problem. I don't like, I think White's playing pretty well here with Bishop F3. I don't like those squares. H6, he takes, I take, and then he takes control of the E4 square. He's won control of the white squares. Alright, Knight E4. So to me it looks like black is worse. Knight E4. Now which way do we take? With the bishop or with the knight? With the bishop. I would think you would take with the bishop because you would cancel this out and you have a good knight versus the Sicilian or whatever, control of D5. He takes with the knight. And you know what? I don't think that White necessarily is threatening anything here. With this move, it feels like we keep really good control of both central squares. I don't know if he was concerned about that. I mean, this looks better for White. I mean, maybe I have some kind of F4 ultimately, but I still think White's better. But he takes with the knight. And now, I mean, I think a weak player would play maybe bishop takes F3, bishop takes E4, but it's just a mistake. Why do I want to go into a slightly worse, clearly worse obscure bishop? I almost think that he took with the knight, hoping I would do that. Because this looks serious now. My bishop's better than your bishop, and if you try to set up, if you try to stop F5 with G4, if you set it up, then it's over. What is black going to do here? It's very unpleasant. Very unpleasant position. I mean, at best, White will be held to a draw, but I mean, I think you're going to get tortured with black. So he's hoping I'll do that, but I don't. I just keep the tension. And I don't mind if he takes this. That's equal. So he does. And now White, after this, White doesn't have an advantage, So what is White's best move in this position? I ask you, ladies and germs. We have just 3 viewers left. Summon the Kraken. I demand more viewers. Or I will no longer... No, I need more analysis. More analysis. Participation. What about G4? Uber driver suggested Rook B1. Mr. Coffee. Are you working? You have an excuse. I want to know about g4. I want to know why white doesn't play g4 here. Are you afraid of f5? Should you be afraid of f5? Should you be afraid of f5? Should you be afraid of f5? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. This I didn't see. You know, maybe I could get away with this with f5. There's some nasty moves here. You know, this in between move. I can't believe Uber driver's thinking about bishop takes e3. Wow. That doesn't work, master. You've been hanging out with that guy from the Boylston Chess Club who used to sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns every game. Remember when you were playing back around the early mid 90s? There was this Russian guy. Every single game, he was rated like 1900. He would sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns. After bishop e3, pawn e3, queen e3 check, queen f2, it's rather difficult to see how, you know, you really have enough compensation. Was his name Boris? There was a guy in Harvard Square who was a very weak player named Boris. Not the same guy. I don't remember the guy's name. I think I remembered him by his last name. So Boris is like meaningless to me. But what I am concerned about is this. Does f5 work? Rook takes f5. Now my rook is on prise. But like, what are you going to do about it, bro? What are you going to do about it, Mr. Coffee? Boris K. Boris Kramnik. I mean, I could get some counterplay now. If you have to play bishop g2, you know, all bets are off. Now, I mean, it's a mess, essentially. Okay, anyway. So Schumacher maybe didn't feel comfortable playing g4. I played this. He plays knight takes c5, and then it's equal. Takes here. Is this a good move? There's a pin here. So I'm actually threatening b5. If you play bishop d5, I can play b5, and I'm undermining your grip on d5. So he plays, and this is a blitz game, and now we have 26 seconds against 13 seconds. So it's increment, but you know, it's like we have to move quickly here. Black is fully equal, maybe even slightly better now. I never looked at this game from his perspective, but I mean, this move is a little weird, you know, like, you totally don't have the initiative here. I think you should play h3. And if you're going to move your h-pawn, h4 is just an accident waiting to happen. But it's interesting. It's like he's going to go h5 maybe. It feels like inconsistent. He's been playing safely, and then he suddenly did h4. At some point I just like hung a pawn or something, I think. Yeah, now that the nasty h-pawn requires defense. I feel like maybe this is the game where I hung a pawn at one point. I'm not sure. I'm honestly like trying to win, but what about king f5? King f5, rook b5. It's a draw. I mean, this has to be a draw. I mean, even this is playable. Alright, it's a draw now. So I decided to play d4, and he goes e4. I don't think that e4 is a good idea here. But he's playing for, like, tricks and it splits. He just gave me a protected pass pawn at d4. But he has rook b6 check. So probably... probably I should play rook a6. It's probably still a draw, though. You know, my protected pass pawn's not enough to win. So I did this. He goes here, check, back, takes, here, 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 here. And it's just a draw repetition. If I try to attack his pawn, you know, he's going to check me and take the e pawn from the back. So black is happy with the draw at this point. It is a draw. All right. Anyway, that was interesting. Uber driver, and then Mule Skinner. Uber driver, just a little appetizer. Cheap game. We made him hang around. So this is Uber driver versus the Devil Man 666. Where's Nedog, by the way? We haven't seen Nedog in a long time. I'll be right back. I just love doing that. Alright. We are back. We're back already. I love my new transition. So, Uber driver with white. Let me turn off this engine. So g3. Ooh, exciting. Mr. Kraken. Yeah, I gotta get merch, Mr. Coffee. Even Mr. Slow. Actually, Mr. Slow is the last person I'm worried about supporting a stream by buying the merch. It's everyone else. He's like, Mr. Slow is one of our biggest patrons, and he's like, I would buy like a hoodie. I'm not worried about you or Mr. Coffee. Yeah, we gotta get Kraken merchandise, but I don't want to like cause any like chest Kraken or something. I mean, I don't know. I gotta be careful with the trademarks. All right, G3. Oh no, not the hippo. No comment. Double fianchetto. The classical double fianchetto. Yeah, I mean, if you don't get him on one diagonal, you get him on the other one. No, I love double fianchettoing. Objectively, pardon. I understand that you're trying to play the hippo or whatever, but I just want to go on the record as saying like maybe D3 is the better move. Because if you play E3, I think, you kind of weaken your king side a little bit more. I don't know though. D3 is less popular. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. You're going to end up playing for both. I mean, the thing is, if you do D3 and black plays like bishop C5, if you play knight F3 now, do we have any problems? Like, tactically? Wow, apparently queen E7 is quite strong. But your intention is to play a hippo. You're not going to put your knight on F3. If you're not going to put your knight on F3, it's fine. Kamsky Grishuk. E3. And now what does black do? Well, there's no like bubble. Mr. Slow would suggest the bubble. F6, C6. At one point, Paul was suggesting that. Paul McIntyre, VDA Master. I remember I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, I don't know about that bubble opening, man. I don't know. I don't know if that bubble really works. Where you do like F6 and C6. But anyway, okay, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna solve the hippo here. Notice like a few people have thrown in H5, but it doesn't necessarily have a great score. If H5, H3, It's the pawn stop. Very standard. So black, where to go? You know, bishop e6. Okay, d3. Bishop d6. So we got clone bishops. Knight e2. Black plays Pavel Blatny versus Drew Dale Hassel. Oof. That guy, man. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. I didn't tell you guys. This guy was at the World Senior. He's like 2100 from Canada. Man, I mean, that was like worse than Arbakov. I have never smelled anyone that smelled that bad. The guy looks pretty normal, but I think he was there for like 10 days and didn't take a shower. I mean, he sat near me like, I mean, in the like restaurant or something. There was a buffet style. Jesus Christ, dude. Do not walk within like 10 meters of this guy, Dale Hassel. It was horrifying. I mean, he looks kind of normal. I'm like, what is that smell, dude? It's the guy. All right. Queen d7, h3. And then black now makes a very strange move. He's like, if you want to move rook pawns one square, I can get into that too. I think the black's main consideration is like which way he's going to castle in such position. Also, you know, there could be a lunge at some point with d4, e4. I mean, I would expect that black might play this. There's an interesting move here. Someone played knight e7. So it's a transfer. Can I transfer you the money? They thought they were playing the Italian game. It's a little early, you know, to be flipping your knight over to g6. So normally what people do is like they'll do like a, you know, symmetrical thing like this. I saw Strapunski play like this with white against Alexander Ivanov. But once you do that, then it's like, then what do? You know, move your queen back and forth from like e7 to d7, e7 to d7 forever. White will either play c4 or f4 at appropriately the right time. Not easy to figure out how to play against the hippo optimally. Okay, h3, but this move is like, what does that do? Like, I'm seriously, what is that? a6? What is the point of a6? Does anyone even have a vague idea? Does that prevent like knight c3, knight b5 or something? That's a weird move of a driver. Alright. Knight d2, you found it. Black now castles kingside. Reasonable enough. And white plays a3, completing the hedgehog type of structure. And now black plays b5. I understand that it's hard to figure out what to do, but alright, black's main concern should be these two breaks. You will occasionally get the Blatny, you know, like he'll do a Kraken style thing. You can do a Kraken on the king side, or you can turn it into a sort of delayed Kraken. g4, knight g3. Blatny loves this. g4, knight g3, like b4, knight b3. Which is one good reason to play the h5, a5 setup. But this seems a little odd. Okay, b5. Don't worry about that bishop on the diagonal. I mean, he's kind of encouraging you to play c4. But you went with the kingside Kraken instead. It's hard to believe this guy didn't play h6. I mean, I think he would be drawn to that. But actually, after knight g3, I think your position is reasonable. I'm not quite sure what black's going to do. Maybe the Anna Matanadze idea has some validity now. But okay, black doesn't have to play h6. Having said that, you know, your plan is knight g3 and g5. You're driving black away from controlling the center. So rook d8, knight g3, rook fe8, g5. Come on, bro. He lost a knight. Cowboys versus Space Invaders. That's a movie. Cowboys versus Aliens. Cowboys and Aliens. I like that movie. Who was in that? Oh, the guy who plays James Bond, Michael Craig. Okay. Yeah. I knew he should have played H6. I told you. But maybe an alternative would be like 97 or H6. Yeah, this is a beautiful way to lose a piece. Now, honestly, black has the threat of bishop takes g3, so this isn't so stupid. His move has a point. You know, in fact, though, like, just say you close the center, what would happen? It's kind of funny. So if you close the center, he could take, and then when you take back, he could play queen d6, attacking g3 and freeing his knight, the d7 square. You'd still win a piece, but maybe after this, you know, Boris or whatever could get some compensation. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Okay, g5, yeah. High quality game. Very high CPL here. G takes f6, e takes d3. Now he takes. Anything fancy? That's a lot of pawn weaknesses you have there. 3 bears. So you castled. Don't be too generous. And now I expected him to take your pawn here. But he'd rather drop a bishop. No, his bishop's protected. Okay. It's protected. Very good. Very good. Okay. Protected. And knight f1. Wow. Now is h3 hanging? Oh. It was hanging. Takes, and takes. It's hard to like black's position. Alright. You're winning. It's all under control. Don't worry, everything's under control. You like the dark squares. How do you like your turkey? Christmas is almost here, guys. Late meat or dark meat? Game over. Right, Driver. Very accurate play in that game by both sides. But less mistakes by white. Alright, now we've got Mule Skinner. And I still didn't copy the game. I'm a genius. How did that game not go through? Oh, imagine that. Somehow this didn't get copied. Copy. Add a new chapter. Or we could put it in existing chapter. Put it in existing chapter. It doesn't let you? Alright, screw you. I'm going to delete that chapter then. Now it works. Well done. Move 11, you made it. Guys, move 11. We'll be right back. Do we have one? What? We're back? Alright. We do. We have room for one more. Mule Skinner. No, your game's up. Well, move 11 is going to... move 11 is going to submit a game. Mule Skinner's been waiting years for this game. I have 8 viewers? 13 viewers. Good transition doesn't gain me viewers. Alright. So this is Mule Skinner versus Raul. No relation to Capablanca. Alright. Mule Skinner, I don't understand how everyone you play, like, plays the French defense. What is the chance of that? Like, he lives in, like, some weird village in Spain or something where like the entire population plays the French defense. It's like probably the fourth most popular opening. I mean, it's and insane how many games he has in the French defense. All right. It's like the Village of the Damned, where only, little aliens with green eyes play the French defense. Anybody else a Village of the Damned fan? Lionel Chessy, if you move to the other platform, oh god. Dude, if I quit chess and I call my friend at, Deutsche Bank, I could probably enter some training program to become like a commodities trader too, dude. But that doesn't mean that I want to do it, Thank you, Lionel Chessy, for the suggestion. I could also go out and start robbing banks, but that doesn't mean that's something that I want to do, No, I want to make my niche work. D4, D5, knight D2, knight F6, E5. He's secretly like some agent. There was this one guy I was teaching, he worked for that other site, and he was trying to convince me, I'm like, you're not gonna turn me into a Mormon. Alright, E5, knight FD7. I mean, I like the polygamy thing, but I can't work for that site. Alright, seriously, knight FD7, bishop D3, C5, C3, and now I'm spacing. Knight C6. Okay, so knight C6 isn't the only move. The other move is queen B6, right? But nobody plays queen B6 here. Why? Or A6? No one plays A6. A6. A6 is too slow. This ain't the Steinitz variation. A6 is too slow. I would think queen B6 is playable. A6 doesn't do anything. Well, it doesn't do enough. Queen B6 puts pressure on D4 at least. You can see that B6 is a move. B6 with the idea of bishop A6. I'm in a good mood. I'm not gonna time anyone out yet. Again. For a few minutes anyway. Alright, knight C6. And now knight E2, we're main line. CD4, CD4. And what does Muleskinner do? Do you like pay people to play your own opening against you? How do you have so many games in like the main line of the Tarash French with both colors? It's unbelievable. It's not like every other game he plays is like on the black side of this opening. He also has it with white, like every other game. It's incredible. You must be like bribing your opponents to play the French defense or something. Or you hand them like a script and you're like, alright, play these moves and I'll pay you $10 after the game. How do you get so many Frenches? It's crazy. Especially if you're playing like kids. Because kids don't really gravitate toward the French defense. I know that Morales has played a lot of young, kind of lower rated, underrated players and stuff. Okay, F6. And now we're going back into classical. Very classical variation here. So, I've known this line since, I guess, 1999 or something. I've never played the French, really. And I never played the Tarash with white until I started experimenting with it maybe in recent years in Blitz. But I remember having this student I was studying, helping one of my students in 99, around that time. And I still remember the first time I saw this line wasn't until, then, really. Where knight f4 is an interesting variation, but it's probably not enough. Black has good... I have a teammate who did this a couple years ago, played this with black Black has enough compensation here in this line. Queen h5 check. Tima Morozevich, there's older games. Now, I feel like that's kind of like analyzed to death, I guess. But you have to know it, especially if you're black, obviously. So f6, e takes f6 main line. And then, okay, so this is the major branch. Interestingly, again, speaking of 1999, 2000, 2001, around there, I was surprised when I played the French, like second, third edition, whatever, by Watson, because Barayev was playing the French a lot. And I don't know what's happening nowadays, but I was surprised when I bought that book, thinking about learning the French, and he was like recommending this the Barayev style of play with queen f6. You know, queen f6, and then the queen pops back to f7 in a lot of lines. And Watson was a huge expert. He wrote the best book on the French like ever written. Again, we're dated now, but I mean, still that move is a bit, you know, it's more dynamic in a way because we're not moving the knight again. Black's getting a lot of control of e5, so trying to break out. I feel like this is more routine. Knight takes f6, castles, bishop d6 now. Knight f3, main line. But here's another branch. Bijak. What are those things? So mainline is castles, I would feel like. I feel like that's the best. Because fundamentally, this just, I don't know, man. Look at the score. It's close. White is such a good score overall. You know what's interesting, though? Guys, is there anyone left? Usually late in my analysis streams, only the hardcore viewers are still here. They can't handle it. You can't handle, like, analyzing for 3 hours. If you can survive to the end of my analysis stream, you're a real chess player. But it's a stamina thing. I also need, like, a martini usually after 3 or 4 hours of analysis. But seriously, why is White's score so good here? Anybody, like, want to take a stab at it? But I'm not sure that White... I'm not convinced White can even get an advantage. You know, take Michael Adams, for example. Michael Adams always plays the Tarash French with White. His score with the Tarash French is, like, out of control. It's, like, lifetime 80% or something insane. Yet, analyze this position with the engine, and White, or if you had like 2 engines playing each other, it would almost be like a standoff, you know. Probably White would eke out like 1% advantage or something, or would score 1% better than Black would. I think the secret comes down to, you know, like the players playing, and also the type of position. Maybe it's easier to play White than Black, although White is not truly better in a mathematical sense. But what I'm going to say is, like, I think this move is kind of artificial. Queen c7. You know? It feels a little artificial. Maybe I'm not qualified to really make this judgment, though. You know, there are possibilities with it swinging over. Just as a surface opinion. You know, don't take it too seriously. I think that there's got to be a reason. It's got to be viable, but I trust this move more. I understand the point of Queen c7. You know, White's main line after castles is like bishop f4. But we've seen this, and in fact, Mule Skinner has games. In fact, we might have had a game. And I've seen other games. This isn't simple. You know, it's a very complex position, and I don't know that White can prove an advantage necessarily. But both sides have to know what they're doing, you know. And I don't think memorizing moves on Chessable is going to help anybody, really. It probably does more damage than it does good. Understanding positions is a key, not like memorizing moves. Understanding ideas. At some point there might be some use in memorization, but not as the main focus of study of the openings. Queen c7 prevents bishop f4. It might have some swing over, but it also has drawbacks. It also increases control of e5. Okay, it has drawbacks though. You're in the way. You're on the stupid side of the battery. Bishop h2 is not such a serious threat. And ultimately, the queen is vulnerable to both knight c3, knight b5, and most importantly, or more importantly, pressure along the half-open c-file. So I think the downsides of queen c7 probably very well may outweigh the positives. Okay, so he plays it. I would recommend castles. That's just on general knowledge. Now white plays bishop g5. This is Mule Skinner. And I would also play bishop g5 because, well, our main idea is bishop h4, bishop g3. Because that's the most important thing in the French. Trading, the theme of trading like white's bad bishop for black's good one. Plus it's just developing. It's a developing move that enables us to play for rook c1, possibly even knight c1 in some positions, could be a maneuver. But just getting the pieces out. Castles. Now, I don't know if I had this position. Let's see. Yeah. So look at what I did. Oh, it's Mule Skinner. I have 3 games with Mule Skinner where I played white in this position. So how cool is this? Mule Skinner is playing what I played against him 3 times. I played bishop h4 twice, and I played rook c1 once. And this goes back to 2017, guys. So I've been experimenting with this for a while. But bishop h4 is the main line, and rook c1 is the second main line. So you do have other options, like I said, knight c3. But moving away from the king side might be dangerous. Black's pieces are kind of aiming at the king side. So, and the exchange sack on f3 is particularly a theme. You cannot underestimate black's threats. So knight c3 seems a little slow. So you played bishop g5, castles. Yeah, I anticipated you playing bishop h4, like I did, main line, or the rook c1. And so you opted for variation 3, knight c3, which feels like a good idea, but not as developmental as the other moves. So I would assume that this is riskier. I mean, it's nice that you have this one move threat here, and it's nice that you have knight a4, knight c5, but is this really our priority? First of all, playing knight there. My priority is like being safe and usually playing bishop h4, knight h5. But this is sharp. Now knight c3. So what happens? Yeah, that prevents the exchange sack. So the point is like this is not a problem here. So there's a reason why we're playing. There's a really important reason why we're playing knight c3 in that moment. Black is threatening to sack the exchange on f3 like freaking Petrosian and the Sicilian. If you play bishop g3, by the way, I'm surprised I haven't played this. Oh, I have. Oh, okay, this is how 2 of our games went. So I played like this. Why you didn't play like I played against you? He doesn't respect my play. He doesn't play what I played. No. Play what you want to play. But I guess our point is... Well, I want to ask the question. Can black make a Petrosian-like exchange sack here? Doubtful, right? It's a whole exchange. Nothing but the exchange, so help you God. I mean, if black has full development, bishop d7, rook f8, maybe, right? I mean, maybe like we can talk about an exchange sacrifice without even like a pawn or anything. It does seem a bit much, doesn't it? This is never, I assume this has never been played. No one's that crazy. Yeah, there's no need to do that. Okay, so knight takes g3. Mule Skinner has had this with black, so maybe he likes it for black. So that's why he doesn't want to play it with white. Therefore, he tries something else. Although I also like rook c1. Again, most important theme, quick development. Acerbate. Development. So knight c3, a6. This induces a weakness in black's queen side. Like move 11, in the hyper-accelerated dragon, where we get those similar structures where you were playing a6, same thing. You got issues with these squares. But also white, has had to spend some time. He's also blocking his own play along the c-file. So the knight on c3 now is stymied here. His only chance, right? That knight's only chance is now a4. Rook e1. Hello? This is like where the f-pawn raises his hand. He's like, hello? Did you forget about me? F-pawn is not happy about this move. That's like Jonathan Rowson, Chester Zebros, whatever. Talk to your pieces, right? I don't remember which book. Maybe Nenag was here, he would remember. Talk to yourself, because there's no one watching the stream. Because they don't want to learn. You guys, there's 9 people left that actually care about chess. It's a sad day. But I'm happy to be here with one person who really wants to understand chess. That's fine. Alright, rook e1. I'm worried about f2. I mean, there's some points to this. This is a ghost. We're afraid of ghosts along the f-file. Just saying we have to think about it. Maybe the most important thing about this move, besides attacking e6, the other important square e5, and the other brother on e4. So if we start going out here, are we going to have issues with that? Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a fight for the central squares. But I think Acerbate's favorite theme the Acermate. Rook c1 with the idea of the bishop can pull back to b1. This queen can swing over, of course, get off the file. But we keep good control of this. Okay, rook e1, interesting. Now, are we still in book? I'm going to assume. Man, black has a good score here. Jeez. Doesn't mean we have to freak out. Black has a very good score. But Neil Skinner, you are a player who's played this with black, I mean, so you should be aware of the dangers involved here. So rook e1, very rare move for a reason. Bishop h4 again is the main move, transposing back to theory. Knight h5, and now rook e1. So maybe you misremembered the move order or something that you had wanted to play. But it looks like rook e1 has serious problems after knight g4. I obviously didn't know that specific position, but I'm quick to play bishop h4, bishop g3, because I don't want something like this to happen to me, Now on g3, which looks almost forced, check this out. Tompa Janos, who I know, he got smacked by Rosenthalis. Queen f7. Is this an issue? There's a lot of weaknesses here. I feel like e5, I'm going to be sick. There's a Hergot game with black as well. Canada in the house. Hergot played e5 and won. And Rosenthalis played bishop d7 and won. Jesus Christ. Tompa played h3 here. I would be like covering my eyes at that point. Like I'm just waiting for something bad to happen. h3, my God, man. And his opponent is 2600. You know something bad is going to happen after h3. Anybody want to guess? Something bad is going to happen to white after h3. Knight takes f2. Plausible. Black has like an unlimited number of options. Wow. Rosenthal just went back to f6, but I feel like black has something more here. He just went back to f6 and he still crushed him, but it feels like black should have a tactic in this position. Man, doesn't he have like e5 or something? Come on. I can't believe it. Knight f2 is only equal. Wow. Let's let the engine go a little deeper. But Rosenhaus didn't find the best move. Knight f6 is only equal. Knight f2 is equal. Knight h6. I can't believe the Tompo could play this. Like, I would just be like physically ill. There's no way I'm playing like that. Weakening my whole king side. You're really lucky. Yeah, no, he was expert in c3 Sicilian. His ratings dropped down now, you know, to like normal level. He's older than me, but yeah, he was absolutely one of the best players in the c3 Sicilian. I didn't know about the French exchange or Spanish exchange. So you were lucky he played bishop d7. This kid didn't know the line. And now bishop h4, and it looks like you escaped the biggest danger of knight g4. That was really lucky. Bad move order. You know, again, I think this is the problem with Chessable. It's ideas that are more important than necessarily memorizing moves. I'm not saying like Mule Skinner uses Chessable or anything. I'm just saying like if you rely on memory, you make mistakes, you forget the move. I mean, the idea is to get the bishop back to h4 and guard this diagonal. You know, I think that's the priority. Here, there's a Karpov game. I met that guy, Julio Astos. He is a Venezuelan player. I think he played in Philly, and I think I saw him in Venezuela too. Rook at A, E1. I may know that game. Karpov is the best, you know, Karpov and Adams are the two Tarish players to study, but I think Karpov influenced Adams. Yeah, bishop g3 totally makes sense. But it looks like rook c1 has a better score. So what's the point? You don't need to play bishop g3 until something happens, I guess. But rook c1 is developing. This move has the best score. Rook c1. Now what? Queen b8. Queen b8 looks horrible. It's very passive there. So white's advantage is chunky here. Plus 0.8. Wow. Yeah, knight g4 is plus 2 for black. Wow. Does black have even better? I mean, knight g4. So g3 is best. Queen f7. Bishop e2. Oh, so there's this problem. Here where Rosenthalis played that move, Hergot was right. The Hergot. He wasn't playing the Hergot in this game. But Dean Hergot is a decent player. You know, he was a big developer of the modern defense with a bishop takes c3, you know, beefeater variation. He's kind of unknown, but known to us because we lived in New England. There were these like tournaments that they had in like New Hampshire that were like a marathon or something, and I never played in one. They had like marathon tournaments in Monadnock in New Hampshire, and Hergot would come down from like Canada and play in them and stuff. So some of the local players got familiar with him. Otherwise, you know, he's only known in Canada. I don't think he plays much. This is the move, apparently. It just like crushes white. White's in deep shit after that. So really lucky escape by Muleskinner. You know, you as all people, of all people, playing the French yourself, should know this. Yeah, I had the feeling that f7 would come up, though. The f7 is a known square for the other lines. Boom, 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 here, okay. And now this. So rook c1's best, bishop g3. And now white's... I mean, is white... Are you threatening me, Mr. Coffee? Are you threatening me? Are you threatening me to play knight e5? This is what I need to know. Is white threatening knight e5? If you're threatening me, I can make the exchange at g3. But I think the point is, like, you know, bishop takes g3, h takes g3 helps white. Possibly, you know, f takes in some cases, but not really here because of this diagonal. I think this upgrades white's structure. White should be okay after dark square bishop removal. Well, that's optimistic, Mr. Coffee. Now we're actually hoping for more than okay. You know, we're actually looking for better. Removal. I like how he calls it removal. It's like it's surgery. Yeah. But I want black to take on g3 because it upgrades my pawn structure. It's not a weakness, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Controlling f4 with the pawn is extremely useful for white. There's no more knight h5, knight f4. And it clamps down on the e5 square. So, if I ever take on f4, which probably won't happen, but... So I think my point is, like, if I were black, I would hope that white would exchange on d6. It's like the London system. You know, put a pawn on f7. You know, put a pawn on, like, e3. Well, it's a queen's gambit, whatever. So this seems like a minor concession. Takes. Pretty recent game there. Blockburger. Hello? Oh, move 11. Alright, so... Wow. And then Muleskinner's opponent, 1996, by the way. Okay, Muleskinner is 1792, and I think he's a little underrated. But he needs more self-confidence and more practice. He's capable of playing some good chess. I think Muleskinner should be able to get up to more like 1996, objectively. He's also playing a lot of underrated kids, and I think they should be avoided. King h8, and now rook c1. Good move. But I play queen d2 instead. I mean, queen d2 is okay. It looks okay to me, but again, you know, this move has multiple facets. You could play maybe rook c2. Well, I guess for bishop b1 first, and then maybe there's this lift here. Then again, you could do the same thing with queen d2. I think queen d2 protects the knight. It also, knight a5 isn't good. Queen d2 is fine. Looks fine, actually. Novelty. I mean, maybe there's a reason for rook c1, though. You know, does it help prevent e5? See, we're on this. So there's going to be discoveries now. Takes, knight takes d5. Capiche? So that's why rook c1 is better. There's a game, Cisniega was a Mexican grandmaster, I believe. He used to play on ICC back in the day. I probably played him, I don't even remember. Okay, queen d2 here. Takes. Now black is like equalized. I have the feeling that Muleskinner is too content to like draw because his opponent is like slightly higher rated or whatever. Nevertheless, like queen f4 looks like an okay move. Rook e1 is by far the most natural. In the event of queen d4, maybe that's kind of awkward. We're looking at problems here. So I guess I like queen f4. And black, you know, if he wants to win in this position, maybe you should think of playing a different opening. I don't know. Not easy with black. Substitute bishop. It's a surrogate, bro. Pawns are surrogates. Queens are substitute. Substitute teacher. So, I don't know. Queen h5. You could play queen h5, queen h4, queen e5, queen f4. I think the position is equal. Despite white having the better structure, black has an extra pawn that's passed, even though it's isolated. And he also has the better active pieces. All 4 pieces are active. White never got his rook active. And the pawn is also, you know, not to be underestimated again. But okay, like, maybe we're a little better here. Let's not say black's completely equal. Maybe he should avoid the exchange of queens. Or he could also keep the tension with something like rook e8. I mean, what about this? Karpov, good luck. He's going to torture black here. Queen f4, gf4, rook d8. That's not ideal. What's up with rook on d8? You better play d4, right? Knight e2, d4. Knight takes d4, bishop e8. Hasta la vista, baby. That's what Marcel Cisniega would be saying. But no, seriously, rook d8. Knight e2. He missed d4. Okay, it's maybe not a good move. I'm not sure. You can't take the pawn right away, but that doesn't mean you'll never be able to take it. It's a risky move by black. Okay, just saying. King g8, f3, king f7, king f2. Time to start studying some Karpov games. I like white here. What would German grandmaster who plays the French defense, Ullmann, do for black now? This is straight out of Karpov's endgames by. Dude, isn't white threatening like g4? Damn. Ullmann would seriously consider playing h5, no? I am not really happy about g4. I mean, that starts to look like white has something here. So let's say king f2 here. This position black to move. Wow, it's +1. And h5 was on the list there, but now it's saying h6, g4. I don't like black's position, man. King e7 is nice, but it doesn't prevent the problem of g4. And we effectively have an outside pass pawn. Wow. Okay, now white to play. He plays rook d1, but I don't think that's really relevant right now. Nothing's happening with that d pawn. It's not going anywhere. We need to improve our position. Yeah, rook h8, it's a weird move. I mean, he's going to play h5 for real? If he plays h5, you now push past and you have Tetris. You say Tetris, you have 3-on-1. What the heck? Can he really do that? Can I claim Tetris? It's Connect 4? h5, g5. This is kind of insane, actually, what black's doing. He could have just played h6 but he does rook h8 with the idea of h5. Yeah, rook c1 is okay, Mr. Coffee. I guess it also doesn't really do that much. But now all bets are off. You have to play g5. The position gets sharper, but I mean, maybe black's committing suicide here. It's nice that he has an outside passed pawn. But I mean, if you can contain that, now you have 3-on-1, What's up with this 3-on-1 here? That smells like potentially two connected passed pawns. The makings are the makings are in the way of a 3-on-1 becoming a 2-on-0. Call Danny King. You played f5. Can you maintain it, though? Is this a blunder? See, the problem is if we play f5 too early, Black can gang up on it with like knight d6 and rook f8. It looks like he can attack it 3 times. So maybe the key is to not push that too early. It's a tricky situation, though. I don't know how Mule Skinner's time is here. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, like, for White to win. Wow. So this is a different story altogether. Suddenly you have g6 and d5 with check. Plays king f7. There's even the possibility of f6. Yeah, Mr. Cobb, I like that at some point. But even f6 looks strong. Like takes and g6 check. It's not a protected passed pawn, but it might as well be. Not enough. Wow. Not enough. Okay. So if that's not enough, what do we do? At g6 check? Damn. That is cold-blooded. He played king f6. Oh my god. Wow, this reminds me of like an... I don't understand, man. It reminds me of like an offhand game on Lichess or something. This is unbelievable. Don't you have f6 here? I can't believe like f6 doesn't work. I would lose my mind, like, thinking that White has something here. Yeah. He's insane to play like this. This guy is just like all the people I talk about on the stream. This guy plays a great game, and then he just, like, goes berserk. Okay, it's an end game, and he probably is a kid and has bad judgment, thinking, like, he can play actively with his king in the end game. But, I mean, the pawn situation, h5 was the beginning of the end. This is crazy. Check here, and now f6. And then if takes, let's see. Black is really in trouble. Oh, my God. Knight e7. And you just can't stop this pawn. You literally can't stop the pawn. Because, like, bishop e6 loses a piece to rook e1 check. It's crushing. Man, Mule Skinner. Wow. So he hesitated here and played knight e3. It's like you have to feel this is like intuitive, I mean, it's not... Obviously you have to calculate to some degree, but I mean, you have to feel the power. Feel the power of that passed pawn, The inherent power of the passed pawn. After f6, let's say this variation, right? This is important. Pawn takes pawn, rook, whatever, rook g8. Now what? Bishop c2? You don't have that. This must have been what Mule Skinner was afraid of. He sees like f6, but after king takes knight, now we need something concrete. Well, pawn takes pawn is good. Rook g8, and now, you have a bunch of moves like bishop e4 check. Okay, you have bishop c4 check. And also not convincing. But I guess this isn't enough either. But what does look good was this. You get to Bobby Fischer, the the Bobby Fischer endgame. Is that the move? Bishop f5 check? Yeah. Also bishop b5 check. Okay, so can you do bishop c2 check? Maybe. But this is really good. This is really good. So poor Muleskinner gets a winning position in the ending, but doesn't feel the intuitive f6. So he plays this. And my impression here is that, well, we probably just lost our f5 pawn. Why did we not lose our f5 pawn? I mean, doesn't this work? Bishop takes f5. I mean, I'm taking that pawn as fast as humanly possible. Okay, his opponent played rook f8. It might be good enough. But whatever he's doing, he's taking care to prevent f6. And suddenly, you have this check here. He guards it. And still, it's scary for black. Unbelievable. Man, your opponent was pretty reckless. Jeez. There goes. Man, you're lucky you didn't lose this. Rook takes, pawn takes. Oh my gosh. And he wins a piece. Holy crap. You're actually winning. This has to be winning. I mean, you have 3 pawns left? Maybe not. Black's going to trade off one with g5. Oh my god. And it's an outside h pawn. So I don't know off the top of my head if this is a draw or maybe it is. What about king h4? How are we going to win? The h pawn, man. The h pawn. Our other h pawn is the wrong rook pawn as well. If we have to count on that queening square. This might be a draw now. What about a knight ending? What about if we could trade? Could we trade bishops somehow? Don't really want to trade anything. But Muleskinner, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like we can win. I mean, 1 pawn left. I don't know if you want to let him have an a pawn. Maybe it would be better for you to take. Objectively, this is too many exchanges, though. So at this point, here, you have to play this. He plays this. You can't stop b5, b4 now. It's probably a draw. I mean, objectively, just not enough pawns left. You got to be prepared to do your bishop and knight mate. I hope you're warmed up with that. Now it just got in. Now he just got in. So king d6. I guess you should take on there, and then go after his pawn. You know, now he has to play king c5. You get the pawn, and it's a draw. But he has 1 move to draw, king c4. So it looks like it would have been close. If you had taken, he's got to be very accurate. Here, I would imagine this is pretty easy. The a pawn is definitely not ideal. Alright, interesting game. So I got one more from Muve11. Hi, I'm submitting Elvis Gelfand from Linares 1991. Cecilian Neidorf. Where is it? Where did it go? Analysis board? Why is it doing this to me? Why are you torturing me? Why is it torturing me? Get PGN. I was talking about Elvis yesterday, how he was like top in the world, top 20 in the world in the late 80s, early 90s. All right. Analysis board here. But I don't know what happened. I mean, he was very, very strong. You know, in 1990, like, remember in 1992 or 1993, he won the New York Open. It was really funny because the two Estonians won the New York Open, Lembedol and Elvest. And I always assumed, because these guys were both Estonians, that they were friends. But I was recently told by someone that actually they didn't really like each other. So it's kind of, maybe they were like rivals, I don't know. Alright, so how do I put this in there? Study, Sladgie analysis stream, chapter 8. It's in there. It's in there. It's like the Prego commercial. Okay, well anyway, thank you guys for support. This is our last game for today. Unless I'm really desperate and I look at my own game. I could show you guys. That's 120 moves, nothing big. Alright, so this is Elvest versus Boris Gelfand from Linares, which was the biggest tournament in 1991. The most premier, like, closed tournament in the world. No longer exists. Linares is in Andalusia in Spain. Actually, I think that region has a lot of economic problems. Probably Mule Skinner knows more than I do. I know they have problems with water. It's a very much like agricultural region. Lots of olive trees. Okay, e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, cd4, knight d4, knight 5, blah blah blah, a6, bishop g5. So mainline Najdorf with bishop g5. And, you know, what's up with people, like, talking about the Dragendorf or whatever? What's the best way to play the Dragendorf? You play the dragon and then you play, like, a6? I guess. You don't play the Dragendorf by playing the Najdorf and then trying to play g6. If you play the Dragendorf, you play the Najdorf, or you play the dragon and then play a6. You could see, because you could play knight on bd7, but these lines are very sharp. So anyway, okay, e6, surely a cheap and sleazy game. Yeah, absolutely. Gelfand probably in 1991, you know, hadn't reached his peak yet, but to say the least, but he was getting close. But you know, he is like, or was maybe one of the world's leading experts on the Najdorf. And I don't know, he stopped playing it recently in the last like 10 years. But I guess it was just, he had Kasparov disease where, you know, he's tired of having to keep up with all the theory. So f4, knight on bd7, queen f3. And then, you know, I'm not really knowledgeable about this. By the way, you know, the poison pawn variation is always a thing. But for whatever reason, and I'm not really an expert at all, I have noted that this has been very topical. This sort of deferred poison pawn. h6, bishop h4, queen b6. I mean, that didn't used to really be a thing in the old days when Uber driver was walking up and, you know, what do you call it? He was going uphill both ways to school, right? With Big Bobby, there was no h6, bishop h4, queen f6, queen b6. So this modified poison pawn variation, that Big Bobby didn't play that. But knight on bd7 is it's not as risky as queen b6. Queen f3, queen c7, castle's queenside. The thing is that black hasn't played bishop e7, so there's none of this, like, you know, knight takes b5, knight f5, knight d5, sacrifices. So black just plays b5. And man, I mean, you're talking about a whole realm of theory that I've always avoided the Najdorf for black. Just a world of stuff I don't know here. But I was talking about it lately because I played the Kraken, my own invention, and the Kraken is basically like the Najdorf, but you didn't play C5, And once you start playing the Kraken, you're like, the Najdorf's actually pretty good. So I'm kind of getting a Najdorf feel from playing the Kraken. Where oftentimes, like, I'm not playing C5, or maybe I'm playing C5 later. Obviously, the Najdorf is much sounder than the Kraken, my so-called modified Pierz. But the themes are kind of similar. This B5, hyper-modern style. So bishop d3, guarding e4, black plays bishop b7, and then guarding e4. Really fundamental. This is not only fundamental, like we're overprotecting, we also have attacking chances based on sacrifices for white. I mean, the opening explorer doesn't do it justice, though. If you go on the opening explorer, it says lots of 2,000 games, but the theory of this was really pioneered by Najdorf, the Soviet players, right? Like, who else? Geller, Plugievsky. There are so many older games. Spassky, playing white. I mean, there are so many older games that are probably not in the opening explorer here, that all the theory that today is based on, you really need to start with that before we're trying to understand how the theory came to be here. But, alright, black to play. So it's Elves Gelfand from 1991, and this is still the main line. Queen b6. Which is like, are you going to be able to find that move over the board if you didn't know the theory here? Black has already moved the queen. And you're telling me that I have to play queen b6? Okay, it hits a knight. And now knight d5 is the main line. Nakamura Gelfand 2005. 16 years after Elves Gelfand. I guess after like 20 years. There's Shaba Gelfand 2004. After playing this opening for 20 years, maybe Gelfand knows a little bit. But this is 91. So Jan doesn't go into knight d5. He plays this. Knight is attacked. Knight retreats. The knight helps protect our king side. It's not as much of an attacking move. Knight controls a5. It gets in the way of the opponent trying to checkmate us. Needless to say, it's a safer move than knight d5. Chirov has lost 2 games here. Black plays b4. Apparently rook c8 is a thing. Anand, Yefimenko. Black has a decent score with this rook c8 move, which actually presents us with a good example of a position where a classical Najdorfian, rook sack could be a concept. King v1, notice. This was played by Hiller Person. He kind of was playing Najdorf for a while, right? Oh, the game's in there. Okay, Elves Gelfand right there. Okay. So b4, and now the problem is knight a4, queen c6. No? Oh no. What? So, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but this must be the idea. Knight a5, queen a4, knight b7. Our king can evacuate. There's this. Black losing the light square bishop, man, is like losing your right arm. You know, he just doesn't have any pressure on e4. This isn't really that big of a threat or anything. And this is just like a nuclear bomb. So queen c6 turns out is nothing. Wow. So queen c7. I think this is interesting, though. Timon Mecking, 1978. Spassky has already played this in 1973. Do you remember 1973, Uber Driver? See, Spassky was big on the bishop g5. Did he? I don't know. Did he have games? He must have had games with Fischer. Alright, so knight b3, b4. So what's surprising is like knight a4 feels more active. Queen c6 doesn't work. You think, oh, well, this is a good move, right? Well, apparently, surprisingly, Alves' move is better. Knight b1. But if we go down the list now, you know, I'm not seeing any games from 1979. Are you? So it must be that Jan was the first one to play this, or one of the first ones to play this. So this move is like outside the box, you know? Like an improvement on theory. You're obviously not holding up a5, but you have ideas to recirculate here. I would be worried about a5 if I was white, right? The main problem with knight b1 is that knight a4 prevents that pawn from advancing and smashing us down. Ladies and gentlemen, Spassky Tukmakov and Chess Groupies, thank you for your support. Oh wow, even knight e2 has been played, and relatively recently. So that's even another possibility of knight e2. So Elvis plays knight b1. This is the best move even today. And now black plays bishop b7. But I am most afraid of, obviously, a5. So what happens after a5? Hu Yifan lost against, I think that is the guy I knew. Knight on 1d2, threatening knight c4. So this is Alves' like fundamental idea. If a4, knight c4, and now your knight can rejoin the battle. What happens to a queen a7? Our favorite move of the day. I mean, white even has knight a5 in some lines, probably. So, man. The knight b1 is interesting. Okay, so black plays bishop e7. And now there's no, guess what? No knight d5 sacrifices. Look, Mom. No knight d5. Okay. Petronius, 2005. Here, developing. Queen c7. So queen c7, that's the third time black's moved their queen. First there was queen c7, then there was queen b6, and now there's queen c7. So 14 moves, and you moved your queen between c7 and b6 3 times. Man, that seems weird. Like, make up your mind. Okay, knight c4 is coming. It's like the zombies. Alright. Queen c7, king b1, and now h6. Wow. And so, this move was never repeated except in one game. Petronius versus random guy. So black has hold 2 games, holded 2 games with castles, which looks a little more fundamental. There's queen h3, and it's a thing. then black will have e5 or g6. Not so simple. Yeah, I mean, castles looks like a better move to me. a5 has been tried. See, there, well, we prevent castling essentially with queen h3. I don't know. I like castles. It looks safest. The best move. So I think here is where we see black start to go underwater. Everything's okay until h6. This wasn't necessary, Bob. I'm going to assume that like we can't do like h4 and sack a piece or something, you know. I mean, you could. But it's a little bit too much. So, alright, we go back. We don't go back. Wow. So no one has played bishop h4. What's the idea here? Does black have the g5? Anonymous fella? What's up with h6? Why does he play h6? He wants to get in bishop h4, then he takes e4. Right? That's not so simple because the bishop takes e4. Oh, wait a minute. Bishop takes e4. Bishop takes e4. Knight takes e4. Bishop takes. And then, like, check. Okay, that doesn't look good for black, particularly. The other idea, which is very common in the Sicilian, is g5. But after pawn takes pawn, is square. So Elvis' idea here is to just go queen h3. The fact that it was repeated later by Catronius means that it's good. Because Catronius is like, he's like opening theory God. And now here, and that's a bad sign. That's a real bad sign. I don't feel good. Can I go home now? This is a bad situation. So h6 was a bomb. If our best move after queen h3 is to play rook g8, I think we're in trouble. But his point is like g5. Maybe I'm judging it too quickly. Okay, he's got g5. Maybe I'm judging it too quickly. I'm being too... Alright. So we give up the dark square bishop. Major concession for white. I didn't think he had to. And now what? What about this? What's the problem? Why is this so bad? The fact that our king is in the center? This is obviously structurally a catastrophe for black. It's a really bad Richter Rouser where h6 is almost indefensible. Black doesn't have great coordination. So the other question would be, what about bishop takes? Yeah, now we start to see, I guess, issues with knight c4. Maybe this point is weak a little. I mean, the bottom line is like white, Elvis has 6 pieces developed, and his king is safe. You know, black has 4 pieces developed, and his king is not safe. Kind of fundamental, right? Knight takes f6, and now f5, and so Catronius played this instead. I'm going to guess that's even stronger. So Catronius just like knew this, and he actually played an improvement. But apparently white is just completely winning, or virtually completely winning. e5, knight c4. He plays f5. This isn't as good. So Elvis actually misses the best move there by a lot. f5 is a huge mistake. So this was opening it up. Huge advantage. Knight c4, huge advantage. I think there was another move. After f5, we let him lock the center now with e5, and it's not so simple anymore. Now, how do we break through? And the black king in the center isn't as bad because white can't open up the position. What is bad is the rook. I think the rook is really messed up. And there may be no way to fix that, ultimately. So this is a slower operation now. Black's starting to get some counterplay. It kind of looks like black could actually get in d5, but the e5 is too weak. He just centralizes. This is weak. There's maybe bishop g5. Look how fundamental Elvest, just plays according to principles. His pieces are just centralized. His king is safe. And then black had the castle queenside. This sensible decision. And what else is he going to do? I mean, ultimately, it's just not clear that black can ever completely be okay. Is his king going to be okay on b8 and the white squares? So this is kind of technical now. The black king's a little safer, but it's not completely safe. That's... But I like the way that Elvis played this in respect that it was like very risk-free, very correct. He didn't play like a maniac, he played like a very, very correct, fundamentally like sound player. An aggressive e4 game without going nuts, Look at this little... The newest type train in the house. A3. Now imagine if a line opens up here on the queen side. Very nice. What about knight takes e4? Rook takes e4? What's happening here? We're just taking on d6. Look at that. So knight e4. And d6 falls. Very, very solid play by Elvest. Bishop c6, queen b4. Queen b4. Feels like maybe black could survive here. Am I going to play knight f1? Knight e3? What does this move do? Well, it prevents the black king from moving over there. What if black trades queens, though? Actually, that's the problem. If you ask a question, you get an answer. Why doesn't Elvest play, Gelfand play rook e7 or rook d7 now? This. Now, what about defending f7 laterally? Defend f7 laterally, and then try to trade queens. If you trade queens, black can probably survive. But I'm a little bit put off by this move. All right, f6. Yeah, it's reasonable. And then bishop a2 doesn't do anything, but it gives him this possibility later. And then Gelfand goes for trade of queens. Absolutely. If black trades queens, he's probably okay or almost okay. But Elvis avoids the exchange of queens. Wow. So now king c7, I would assume. Where does the black king want to be? Like b8? This knight c4 is a thing. But I don't know, he looks like he's hesitating now. Can black find a move here? So check out what happens. Queen c7, rook e3. Uh-oh. That's not good. As a Richter-Rauser player, this is no longer a Najdorf, it's a Richter-Rauser. Gelfand is now playing the Richter-Rauser. This is not good. Not good. King not safe. Gelfand is really like just thrashing now. He has no plan. The last couple of moves didn't look good. Whereas Elvis is just playing steadily. And another like weird move, but I mean, what is Black supposed to play? His king is like freaking out, you know. And then a surprising move. But I mean, there is this pressure on e4. It's the only thing saving Black, really. The fact that White... Otherwise, White would just like stomp him with knight c4. But the thing is hanging. So... It's awkward for White. Like, maybe you have to recycle over here. Rook e1, rook here. Overprotect e4 before you can do anything. He's like, no. I'm going to allow you to, like, change the structure. It's a surprising judgment, but the resulting position is all that matters. Takes. No longer backward pawn. No longer outpost on d5. Just pawn there. The really nasty knight c4 idea. But not only, we also have like rook c4, rook b4. And that's what Elvis did. He does a rook c4. Rook c8, rook e1. Again, the black king is like, please put me on g8 or something. He had to protect this, you know. But now his king is like, look at his rook and his queen here. They're like cutting his king off from running away to safety. The rook's like, get out of my way. I mean, the king's like, get out of my way. You know, like, let me out of here. And he can't get out. These pieces are literally like cutting off his own flight. Oh, man, yeah. This is just brutal. So black is lost. And then this is like devastating anyway, but he's starting to win a queen. So you would expect him to try to run for it now. I mean, what else the hell is black going to do? I could win a pawn, but that's the least of black's problems. Honestly, like, if I can run away, I would be happy. I know one pawn is not going to like kill me. So it must be something else there. Because after this, he doesn't go king c7. I mean, king c7 is, even though it looks a little crazy, it's kind of like the only logical thing to do. I mean, if king c7, I know he has this. King d8. But it's still not, like, totally lights out. I mean, knight takes, rook takes, rook takes. Maybe pawn takes. Of course, it doesn't look good. White's probably winning. But it's a process. It's not that simple. I would get my king out of there, but he plays queen a6. And now rook e3, king a7. So he never made it, like, to the coastal evacuation route. Gelfand tried to survive with his king on, you know, remaining on the queen side, but I doubt it. Jeez. And now there's no check. That's a nice move. So now knight e4, rook takes a4, winning the queen. So you have to play this. And that's like, say what? There's a check here. But Yana was just like, okay, whatever. Congratulations. Check here. And then he walks down there. Oh no. It didn't work. It didn't work. Because if he checks again, he just goes up. And if he checks again, he interposes his knight on f2. And then it's like, what are you doing? Yeah, I mean, this is a high-level game by both sides, but especially by Elvest. I mean, it's not an exciting game like for average players. I think it was kind of systematic and very tight. But I mean, Elvis isn't renowned for like wild play. You know, I mean, I think he's just a really good all around player. Um, anyway, guys, I got to go. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on Friday tomorrow with some blitz, fast blitz / rapid challenges at 12 noon Central European time. I appreciate your business, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye. 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 Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mr. Coffee. We'll see you guys later.